Oh, sorry, wrong intro.
Wow.
Space. The Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the YouTube show Tuesday Night Trek.
On a Thursday.
Its mission: to catalog every piece of Star Trek media, to keep alive the spirit of Gene Roddenberry,
Tuesday Night Trek
to
on a
boldly
Thursday.
go where no YouTube show has gone before.
Tuesday Night Trek, released McCracken production.
That's right.
Yes.
Sure.
My intro sounded a lot better, you have to admit.
On a Thursday, and then
On a
like
Thursday,
little-
everyone.
On a Thursday.
Get your floaties.
Hello,
Get your-
everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel, where the Force is family. Welcome back to Tuesday Night Trek on a Thursday. I am Master Paul, joined by the usuals of Tuesday Night Trek.
Where's
We have
Baron?
Admiral Kritz, we have Cash Money, do your homework! We have Mike Pacific 414 and Sir Phil, and yes, it's finally TNG is over. And
Where's
yes,
Baron?
And yes, I read out everyone's name just so that I could read Phil's name. Baron, unfortunately, will not be joining us tonight. He wasn't feeling the best. I also put out the invitation to Spock, Nerdporial, and Brandon, the anime guy, since they started TNG with us. Unfortunately, they had other engagements they had to attend to also. But Brandon sent me he sent me an audio recording that he had sent, and I'm going to be pulling that in now. Actually, it's a full video. So basically, let me introduce this video by saying that tonight is the end of the show, The Next Generation. We're talking about All Good Things, the series finale, and then we're going to do a sort of wrap-up discussion on the show as a whole, and we're going to list off our top 5 favorite and least favorite episodes. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and share this video that Brandon has prepared. He wanted to be here, but he got held up. So let me bring it on.
Hello, everyone, one and all.
Can everyone hear it okay?
Mhm.
All right, then I'll back it up and start it over.
Hello, everyone, one and all. I am Dr. McCoy, and tonight I am going to give my final thoughts on Star Trek: The Next Generation, last episode, All Good Things. While season 7 and season 6, for that matter, were very hit and miss on the quality in terms of the story, some of the decisions that they made, the way that they ended this series was absolutely phenomenal. Having a story revolve around Captain Picard and bringing back Q and taking him from time frame to time frame to the past and to the future, showing what could be, showing what has been, and showing how things could have changed. It really did encapsulate this series and put a very fine exclamation point onto an incredible television show. In hindsight, this is probably one of the best ways to end a show in history. Probably only tied or bested by its successor, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and other shows throughout history that have ended on such a high note. I had the privilege of seeing this originally when it aired back on May 23rd, 1994. And I can tell you that that as a young Star Trek fan back then, it had a profound impact on myself. And to this day, this particular episode or set of episodes absolutely is it is my favorite episodes for at the very least the last 3 seasons. You know, as I said, it ends everything perfectly with how things could have been, how things were, and how things got changed because Q allowed humanity to do that. And this is a very Q heavy show, even though he's only in it for a little bit. But everything about this does revolve around Q, the trial, and for us as humans overcoming that trial. It really is reminiscent of the human condition and how we try to strive to better ourselves, in at least how a normal human should want to better themselves in all things. And with that, the episode, it's a 9.9 out of 10. It's as close to perfect as it gets. It really is worth watching again and again. Plus, you get to see the Dreadnought version of the Enterprise D, which is, of course, super over, OP and everything. So, with that, I am Dr. McCoy, aka Brandon the Anime Guy, aka King Anime, aka all things Star Trek and fandom and nerddom. Signing off for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
And frankly, I couldn't have said it better myself. This is the single best series finale of anything I have ever seen. And it's a great way to wrap up the show of The Next Generation. And I forget who said it. I want to say it was Nerdpoil originally that said it, that all of the shows from TNG onward pretty much ended purposefully in the same place that they started. And I get it now why he said that. So in order to explain that further, of course, as always, we're going to discuss the events of the episode, as we always do. And don't worry, I'm not going to do a rapid fire, just sum it up in a sentence like I did last time. That was painful. No, we're gonna go in deep on this one. So as always, we'll go around the horn. And Mike, since you're already unmuted, you can go first. What do you think of this episode?
Well, I have to echo some of Brandon's sentiments. I mean, I was a freshman in high school when this episode aired.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I have to collect myself.
Are you crying?
Maybe just a little.
I completely understand, and trust me, I'm not laughing.
No, and I don't mean to, sound like a wuss or anything, but a 7-year journey ended. Excuse me, on May 23rd, 1994. And I'm so appreciative. So appreciative of this show for giving us all hope for a better future. I mean, it was the original series that first piqued my interest. Next Generation said, come on in. And during those 7 seasons, yes, you saw some bad episodes. There were some bad episodes, yes. I'm not going to deny it. But there were also great episodes in this series. Great writing for this series. Great character development. And, tonight, all those feelings I had 29 years ago watching this episode came rushing back just now. And yes, after this episode aired, we did get Generations. But this was the last original episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. The end of Gene Roddenberry's last creation. Let's not forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Roddenberry created this series. The other series, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, were all created by Rick Berman and a combination of Jerry Taylor and Michael Piller, or Rick Berman and Michael Piller, and Rick Berman and Brandon Braga. But this was Gene Roddenberry's creation at the beginning. And what Michael Piller, what Rick Berman, what Ronald D. Moore, what Jerry Taylor, what so many writers did for the series to enhance the show in a lot of ways, develop the characters in a lot of ways. Yes, Data did seem to have a reset, from episode to episode, because this was episodic. But this was a great 7-year journey. A great 7-year journey with a great cast. Despite what we all might think of the cast now, the cast is still very special to a lot of Star Trek fans, myself included. And they got what the original series did not get: a proper final episode. And yes, it's over, but it's a journey you can go back and experience your favorite episodes over and over again. And you may even see something you never noticed, in your first watch, second watch, third watch. But Next Generation is what cemented my Star Trek fandom for me. And Deep Space Nine said, well, if they can cement it, we're going to keep it there.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I apologize for getting a little emotional, but
Don't
those
apologize,
memories.
man.
Don't apologize, Todd.
And hold on, I'm gonna interrupt real quick and say hello to ActionCom. And ActionCom, I'm gonna send the link to you to join, since you became part of the Next Generation about halfway through this show with us. So check your Discord. I'm gonna send you the link also if you want to join.
I think it was earlier than that. I remember ActionCom from season 1.
Okay. Well,
So he's-
whenever
he's-
you were part of this show too, so I'm gonna get you in here if you're willing. But I didn't mean to interrupt that, Mike. Any final thoughts?
Just my final thoughts. A great journey going. We all went on with the show, and what an honor it was to be able to go to conventions while the show was still running on the air and meeting people like Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, and Majel Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the memories I have with me. The memories of a great show, great cast, great characters, and just a wonderful time going on an episodic journey each and every week.
All right. That was very poignant. ActionCom has joined us, and I'm going to go ahead and put him on the pedestal. You can go next, ActionCom, if you want to say anything about Journey's End, or since Mike did, TNG as a whole.
I remember when I found out about this finale, I didn't keep up with the news at the time. I just remember I was in high school and it was a Friday, and this was the days when they were trying to get us to read newspapers. So every Friday in one of our classes, they would give us a newspaper to read because that was our civic duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a little blurb on one of these that said series finale coming in X amount of days. And I was like, whoa. When I started this series, I was living in Florida and I was in middle school. And it was coming to end. It was high school. And this was also during a time when time didn't seem to fly by very much. So
yeah, tell me about it.
So it felt like it had an end of an era feel. I So I was happy to see it when it came. This, as a whole, I think this finale set a precedent in which they end the story at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek
I mentioned that in my comments.
Star Trek Continues somewhat followed that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great ride. I also remember that at the time there was a flood of Star Trek documentaries on TV, somewhat celebrating this going out.
Yeah, wasn't one of those LeVar Burton doing a special on the next generation of Reading Rainbow?
Actually, that was at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
It was while he was working on season 1 that he did that, and it was the first documentary about that show. By default.
I think I know which one you're talking about, Action Com. It's one that was hosted by Jonathan Frakes, and that's when we got the first word of Voyager.
Actually, okay, yeah. Deep Space Nine was in full swing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there was another phenomenon coming up at the time. It was called the X-Files.
Yep.
And I went that direction, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a great run. I was satisfied as a fan of the show. And I was watching Deep Space Nine at the time, but I just remember getting trekked out for some reason, and that was part of my reasons why I went over to X-Files for a little while. So yeah, good memories.
Okay. And real quick, before I move on to the next person, Action Com, I am going to ask a quick favor while we're talking. If you can come up with a solid top 5 favorite and least favorite episodes of Next Generation, I would greatly appreciate that.
My brain will be racing.
Okay. Cash, you can go next.
Well, that was the really good episode, but usually any episode that has Q in it is going to be great. So you might be surprised, Paul, but I actually give this episode a 9 out of 10.
That is very surprising because you're the most scrutinizing out of all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. What did you say, Phil? I'll find you. Oh. No. But no, it was a really good episode. It was a great way to end a show. I still need to go back and finish up season 6 and 7.
All right. Well, as I said before, at least for the sake of this show, I'm letting you off the hook as far as season 6 and 7 of TNG.
Ooh, yes. But no, it was a really good episode. The whole thing about the anomaly, the time warp through. We saw Picard older. We saw him younger again. We saw him somewhere, I guess, in the middle. But it was just a really good episode in the way it ended, and with the card playing, and but once again, it's just also Delancey. It's Q. Q adds just so much to this show. And of course, I know what happened to Q in Picard because I was told what happened to Q. But yeah, it's just the performances, the way that those two, Patrick Stewart and Delancey, bounce off of each other is really impressive, and there's just really good chemistry there, and just Q messing around with humanity again. It's like you just want to choke the man. He can't stop messing around with humanity, and he's so fascinated by John Luke. So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. Phil, you can go next.
Well, while I would put the ending of TNG as top 10, I will never put it top 5.
I understand.
To highlight the greatest ending will always be MASH. MASH will always have the highest.
Oh, it's
when it comes to me.
I mean, it's a fantastic ending. Dude.
11 seasons and
Yeah.
not a single filler. Impossible to do today.
But you can
Right.
talk about what about the ending to Frasier? Even
I
Cheers
will
had a
give
strong
that.
ending.
That's in my top 5.
Okay.
There, like I said, if I like TNG, it was good for what it was on TV. I still prefer the original series. When this came out and it was the end, I was a little bit looking forward to Generations, but I'll go there another day. But if I was to rate this ending, it would give it 6.5.
Okay.
Lots of contradictions there. A lot of people don't notice. We just saw season 7, and we know about the Riker and his captain trying to do a cloaking device.
Yes.
What do we have in this episode? A cloaking device. Federation ain't supposed to have a cloaking device. Period. End of story. But we have changes. This is where, for me, the sign of Star Trek and the later Deep Space Nine, which I love more than TNG, Voyager, and I won't even go into Enterprise, but there were contradictions and more outright contradictions, which I didn't like. I do like, if you're going to do time period, that type of deal, this was the show to do it. All the other Star Trek with time and all, minus Captain Kirk going for the whales, this is up there with it. I would put it number 2 for when it comes for that. But for me, Enterprise. I know Brandon mentions the Enterprise D. You'll find out what happens to the Enterprise D.
I already know.
Yeah. So
that the Enterprise E exists.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Enterprise F.
I know.
So,
I
just
know.
to let you know. But like I said, at that time, we had Deep Space Nine. I was starting to get into it. I could see where, unfortunately, the writers seemed to be split in 3 at the time. You had some still staying with TNG. You had some still go that went over to Deep Space Nine. And I guess they were writing at the time to get ready for Generations. But out of all season 7, this 2-parter episode is the best one. So good. I enjoy it. I can watch that over and over again out of the last 2 seasons of TNG, but could have been a lot better. It could have been a lot better. And I'm not blaming the episode. I'm blaming what was written for the season. So
I completely understand. All right, and Crit, I saved you for last. What's your thought?
Well, I have to announce I have cracked open a cold one. I don't usually drink, but I have opened it. But to me, the highs, even though there's highs and lows, and even though DS9 is the better show, this finale reiterated, at least in my perspective, that TNG will remain one of the greatest sci-fi shows ever in pop culture. We've groaned about TNG, we've loved and gushed about TNG. Regardless, as Mike says, this was a journey, and I watched this the first time when I was at a low point during my high school days. I had returned from, I had been taken somewhere and been at a place I didn't want to be at for a year, and it was a hard time, and that's where some painful there's some scars that I feel like a year of my life was wasted. And after that, I was sort of depressed being at school. Even though it was back home, that year really just didn't go away for me, at least. And then came Netflix. This is when Netflix was good. This is when Netflix was where you would watch shows and TV. And I was a fan of, me and my dad really liked the Wrath of Khan and the Star Trek shows and the Star Trek movies. And I've seen the TNG movies. I haven't, but before I watched this show, I had never really watched the series. And I tried TOS, and I've said I just think TOS is too old for me, and I don't enjoy it. But
all right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back ever.
We do not slander TOS on this channel. And I had to do something funny to break up the serious tone. Sorry, Crit, you had to be the sacrificial lamb.
Well, as I was saying, there seems to me, I'm very passionate about, even though I was never born in that era, never lived for that era, I seem to be really passionate about the 80s and 90s more than most people. I seem to know a lot about that era, especially when television and film. But for me, that's when pop culture peaked, and there's always something new you could find. And to me, TNG was something new. And when I watched it, I just could not stop watching. You grow with the characters; they become kind of your brothers and fathers. Picard's attitude helped me during that time. Picard made me. Picard and Cisco both, because those two shows were that I watched back to back. They made me happier in my life during those few months I watched those shows, and I went back and would watch them again. And the All Good Things, it encompasses a larger picture, and to me, it makes me see that TNG wasn't just a 7-year journey, but in my opinion, it was Q observing and judging us and seeing what wonders humanity. Every episode was a chapter of that crew, because many things came their way. They explored new possibilities. As he said, they trekked beyond the stars, and it was an adventure. And it's an adventure that even surpasses the movies. It's an adventure that surpasses, and it's even though we won't get any more new adventures or, well, in the good sense, this show becomes comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I saw your message.
My message?
Oh, I'm talking about Phil in the private chat.
What?
And we just watched that movie, Phil.
I'm looking this up right
She
now.
just passed away from being hospitalized. She was hospitalized yesterday.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Breaking news, everyone. Tragic breaking news. This is, according to NPR, as of 5 minutes ago. Let me bring this on screen. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis Presley's only child and a singer in her own right, dies. Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of Elvis Presley, died Thursday after being hospitalized earlier that day, her mother said in a statement. The singer was 54. It is with a heavy heart that I must share the devastating news that my beautiful daughter, Lisa Marie, has left us, Priscilla Presley said in a statement. She was the most passionate, strong, and loving woman I have ever known. The announcement came just hours after Priscilla Presley had confirmed that Lisa Marie Presley was rushed to the hospital earlier Thursday. Los Angeles County paramedics were dispatched to a Calabasas Hope I said that right. Home
Yes, you did.
at 10:37
Yes.
a.m. Thank you. Following a report of a woman in full cardiac arrest, according to Craig Little, a spokesperson for the county's fire department. Property records indicate Presley was a resident at that address. And that's it. All right.
I hate January.
Yeah. And that's unfortunately two well-known musicians that we've lost in the last 2 days, in the last 48 hours. Yesterday was unfortunately Jeff Beck, and today it's Lisa Marie Presley. Now, admittedly, as far as her own career, I am clueless. I don't know anything about Lisa Marie Presley other than the fact that she, of course, is the daughter of Elvis, and at one point was married to Michael Jackson. But
Also married to Nicolas Cage.
really,
Also married to Nicolas Cage.
that I didn't know.
Yes.
Wow. But even still, even if I don't know anything about her career, I can still comment on the fact that families are hurting because she has passed away. A fan base is hurting because she passed away. And at the end of the day, death comes for us all.
She has children. I believe both of them were in their 20s, I believe. I'm not sure if there's a third, but I do know that there's two. With a previous, not Michael nor Nicolas Cage, or the father, that was another musician she was married to. And I believe one of them has children, so she's also a grandmother. So, yeah. 54. She's only 3 years older than me.
Yeah, I see.
But, yeah. We lost a lot of people in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the retired Pope die. We had Pele, Jeff Beck, now her. Yeah, this year is starting out with a lot of people going.
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
Just Godspeed. May she rest in peace.
Indeed.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Well, recovering from that, let's go ahead. I believe everyone, Crit, that interrupted what you were saying. Is there anything further you'd like to say about All Good Things before we get into the recap?
Well, to think of good besides death and All Good Things as its own is it's not necessarily a final chapter, but it is kind of feel like you're closing the book to
Yes.
a story. And the movies are there. We watch them next. But for me, I think the story, if you were never to watch any movies, I think the story of Picard and his friends, and it ends nicely on this final note. And if the movies don't do you well, I would read the expanded universe or pocket universe, because that's probably the best you're going to get. But this is a nice closing end to a 7-year journey.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, with that, let's go ahead and get into the recap. So, the episode starts pretty much as any, at least latter half of TNG episode would, where Worf and Troy are leaving the holodeck after, I guess, dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight, we could almost say. And they're heading back to their quarters, and Worf is a bit concerned about the fact that they never told Riker that they were dating or something. Like, he's concerned for his friend's feelings. And Troy says, "Don't worry, everything's over between Will and I. We'll be fine." But this conversation's interrupted by Picard, who's storming down the hallway in his pajamas asking what date is it, and he's told that its star dates, correct me if I'm wrong, 47988. Is that
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
And Troy, of course, asks what's wrong, and he says, I feel like I've been traveling through time. And so Troy pulls Picard aside into her quarters to ask what happened. And Picard is very disoriented. He has a hard time remembering what he had just experienced. But he remembers enough to note that this wasn't a dream. Like, this felt real. And suddenly, in the middle of the conversation, we flash into the future, and we see Picard is now an old man with a beard, and he's tending his vineyard, his family's vineyard, back on France. And he gets a visit from Geordi in this particular future. Now, both by this point have completely retired from Starfleet. Picard is now an ambassador, and Geordi, I believe, is now just a family man and an author. But what's really cool about Geordi is that he has entirely new eyes that I'm guessing perform the same functions as his visor did. Like, let me see if I can find a picture of what I'm talking about, because I noticed that his eyes had a weird texture on them.
You knew they had to do that if they were going to portray the future.
Yeah. So let me bring this picture in here real quick. See if I can make it bigger. It looks like his what? Okay, help me out here. What's the colored part of your eyes called? Is that the cornea or the retina?
Retina. The cornea is in the back, I believe.
Right. So his retinas look like they're made of metal, and they have like a checker pattern to them. And by the way, hello to the legendary Tron. Thanks for joining us. But with that, he's able to see again. And if I'm not mistaken, we see him have these eyes again in the movies, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Does he have them
Indeed.
for all of the movies, or does he just have them for some of them?
You just
He
have
has
to
them
wait
for
and
3
see.
of the 4.
Generations, he
Bro.
does not.
Okay. Fair enough. So anyways, continuing on. Geordi goes in and he says that he wants to visit with Picard because in this future, Picard has this, I want to say it was called Imradil syndrome, something like that. Basically, a fancy version of dementia that's progressing worse and worse. Now, Picard is still, for the most part, of his complete faculties, but he's starting to slip ever so slightly. But at the same time, the way that they frame the episode, you can't really tell whether or not it's his disease causing this or whether it's something else, which we'll get to in a moment. But Picard was talking about how he felt like he was somewhere else. Actually, no, not even that. I'm getting ahead of myself. He was having a nice conversation with Geordi, but then suddenly he hears someone laughing at him, and he looks around and sees these really scruffy looking people that are pointing at him and laughing at him. People that look familiar. And all of a sudden, he flashes again. And this time, he is on a shuttle with Lieutenant Tasha Yar, and he's
Not-
wearing the old Season 1 uniform.
Not just any shuttle.
The
Shuttlecraft
Galileo. Yes. Forgive me, guys. I'm pulling up a cheat sheet to help me remember all this. A lot happens in this.
We'll help you, brother.
All right. So, anyways,
There's like a ceremony for the captain.
yeah, so they pull into the Enterprise for the first. So basically, we see what happens when Picard arrived for the Enterprise for the first time, just before he's given the mission to investigate Farpoint Station, and he has his first interaction with Q. Foreshadowing. And he's giving the address, and he looks around him, and again sees in the rafters those same scruffy looking people laughing at him, but there's more of them, but no one else sees them. Only he does.
He then orders red alert.
Yeah, and then he orders red alert. But he shifts back to the present, and he's actually, hold on. He shifts before he gets to the Enterprise for the first time, and he's back in the present day. And he tells Counselor Troy that he was just with Tasha in the shuttlecraft. And that tips off everyone to maybe the captain's, maybe he needs to be examined in sickbay. So they do. And Picard specifically asks Beverly to look for the signs of Irumodic syndrome. That's what it was called. And she says that she couldn't find any, but there was a slight defect that had been caused in his brain that later on could generate Irumodic syndrome. And all of a sudden, this gets interrupted by a transmission from Admiral Nakamura, and he tells Picard that he needs to go to the neutral system. To the neutral system. Yeah, to the Devron system near the neutral zone, or in the neutral zone rather, because a temporal anomaly has been discovered there, but at the same time, the Romulans are also staging ships on their side of the neutral zone for possibly a assault, and the Federation needs to match them with the Enterprise leading the way. And so Picard goes about this, and again, he shifts into the future, and he's still with Geordi, and he says that he was on the Enterprise in sickbay, and he was talking to Beverly. And at first, LaForge thinks it's his Irumodic syndrome flaring up, but he's insistent that it's not, that it felt real, and that the best person that could help them is Data. And so they go, and and Data in this future has become a professor at the University of Cambridge. And they do something kind of funny with him where facially he hasn't aged very much because he's an android, but they give him just a random gray streak in his hair, like just right here. And he says, I did that because gray hair is seen as dignified.
Thought it looked distinguished.
Yeah, it looks distinguished.
Not according to his sassy housekeeper.
Yes.
He looks like a
Phil,
darn
you
skunk.
can say stuff like this out loud,
I mean, I'm eating a sandwich.
Are you sure it's not a Buster bar?
If it was, I wouldn't tell you.
Fair enough. And side note, by the way, thank you for keeping yourself on mute and not doing a whole bunch of over the thing. I greatly appreciate that.
I understand.
So, anyways, continuing on, they tell Data about everything that Picard's been going through, and Data doesn't really know what to think. At first, Data thinks it's his Irumodic syndrome and asks if Picard's been taking his medicine, which he says he has, but it's not a cure. And so they decide to run neurographic scans on Picard, and that one way or another they're going to get to the bottom of this, and then he shifts again. And this is where, again, Picard finds himself in the past, and he's disembarking from the Galileo onto the Enterprise for the first time. And yes, they bring back, I already said, Denise Crosby as Tasha Yar, but they also bring back Colm Meaney as O'Brien, specifically Red Shirt O'Brien. And they also put Geordi. Actually, no, we don't see Geordi in the past because he's still on Farpoint Station with Riker. But they also put Worf back in the red uniform too. They give him the golden sash instead of the silver one he had been wearing, and they chop his hair shorter. Although you can tell that they still have the same quality of makeup on him to make the Klingon ridges. Like, let me see if I can bring in a good comparison.
Yeah, what you're talking about is instead of it being the season 1 makeup that he wore, it's the current makeup that he had worn throughout the rest of the series because they had to change the makeup from season 1 to season 2 because it was irritating Michael Dorn and causing some other issues.
Yes. So let me show you this. This is how Worf looked in All Good Things with Denise Crosby, who actually had longer hair in this episode than she did in Encounter at Farpoint. Is that right, Pacific?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how he looks in All Good Things. Now let me bring in how he looked in the original Encounter at Farpoint. So this is going to have a bonus picture from him in season 2 also. But on the left is how he looked in the original Encounter at Farpoint. Or here's another good picture too. But yeah, less pronounced, less detailed. And by the way, I'm just bringing in this picture for fun.
UK teeth.
Yep. But I'm glad that they did their best to recreate the look of everything from Encounter at Farpoint, but at the same time, they kept the details consistent as far as modern stuff.
Did they bring back the chair?
Yes, I think they did bring back the chair. In fact, Pacific mentioned this too.
Wait, the captain's chair? No, it's the same chair that we've seen since season 2 in all 3 time periods.
Oh.
So they didn't put it back. The season 1 had the flip screens, had the flip out panels.
What do you think, Cash? Never mind.
The background picture is the season 1 bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see the flip panels.
I don't know. This looks like the battle bridge from. Is it the same set? Well, let me bring it up.
Hold on. What? I could kind of see that it looks like the battle bridge. That's the Pasteur.
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken. I should have got. No, it's the. I think it's the same set.
The future Enterprise.
They retrofitted the. No, they retrofitted the seats with different carpet.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, I just realized I accidentally exited out of my cheat sheet. But anyways, he goes to the observation lounge, and notices that again, in the past, the observation lounge, if you guys remember, had the, I guess, bronze models of all of the past iterations of the Enterprise on the wall that apparently got removed after season 1. I didn't notice that. Did you guys?
I thought it got removed after season 3.
I'm actually curious. Did they use the same lighting as season 1 and 2? Because it looked a little gray and sterile.
It kind of did.
It did look like in All Good Things they tried to capture some of the season 1 lighting and the look that season 1 had, but they didn't go completely all out season 1.
You need to keep something in mind. This was the 80s into 90s. We were still using cathode ray tube televisions, and they always colored everything a little bit more yellow than they should have.
Right.
So the lighting was very tricky.
So, getting back to what we're talking about, he's meeting with all of the members of the senior staff minus Riker and Geordi and Dr. Beverly, because they hadn't arrived yet. And Picard asks if they had sensed anything, he asks if they found anything from any sort of alien intruder that might have been there. He asks if Troy can sense any alien life force out there, specifically one that might be operating on a higher plane of existence than us, and no one can think of anything. And they get a message from Starfleet headquarters saying that the Enterprise is getting routed to the Devron system to again investigate a temporal anomaly that the Romulans have become interested in. And their mission to Farpoint Station has gotten canceled. So we're starting to see the past become changed, where we already know Encounter at Farpoint, that was the first mission of Captain Picard as commander of the Enterprise. And that was also where he had his first meeting with Q. And Picard knows this. And so after hearing these orders, he decides to disregard them and go basically along the same route that he did originally to try and provoke that first meeting with Q. And then again,
the space jellyfish is going to have to wait.
Yeah, the space jellyfish is going to have to wait. And he guesses that there's a problem with the warp plasma inducers and asks specifically O'Brien to go with him to engineering. Now, again, this is Red Shirt O'Brien. He hadn't yet become part of the engineering division, let alone the master of Transporter Room 3 that he had become by the time he left for Deep Space Nine. He also,
married.
during this briefing, makes a mistake accidentally giving Worf a security-related order instead of Tashigar, because he's not used to doing that. And so...
He's also not married to Keiko, so he's happier. I told you he was going places, didn't I?
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know quite if that was good. But then again, we do still have this counter. We still have the other two counters of Worf being a joke and Guinan doing Troy's job better. But we still have this one that I know will carry us over into further into Deep Space Nine. But anyways, as he's talking up O'Brien and convincing him that he is capable of doing an engineering-related task, Data happens across engineering. And this is a Data that hasn't yet gotten that he's not as used to human interaction as the Data of season 7 was, where this Data talks in slightly more of a stilted and robotic way as he would evolve out of throughout the show. And he didn't understand the expression burning the midnight oil and tried to correct O'Brien, saying, if you burn a petroleum-based substance at 0-100 hours here in engineering, it's going to be bad. And O'Brien trips over himself trying to say it's a figure of speech. And so Picard overhears this and is happy to hear about from Data and gets him to help with the warp plasma coils. But then time shifts again, and he's starting to remember that he remembered more from each time that he shifted. He said that at first he was in the future, then he shifted to the past. Dr. Crusher does a brain scan on him and finds that somehow in just a matter of minutes, he had completely retained enough memories for 2 days.
Dun, dun, dun.
And so there's a meeting of everyone in the observation lounge where Picard is asking people about some of the things that happened when he flashed back to the past, and no one can remember anything. No one can remember him calling Red Alert immediately after his speech, accepting the position. No one can remember them getting the orders to the Devron system back then, canceling their trip to Farpoint. And again, he's not making any sense of this.
Yeah, because Troy actually tells him that she introduced him to Worf and the rest of the senior staff.
Yes. So later, he's in his ready room, and Dr. Crusher tells him maybe it's that you're just tired. You need to go to bed. And here we see a bit of a tender moment between Dr. Crusher and Picard, where they say something like, a lot can happen in 25 years. Again, foreshadowing. But again, time shifts. He goes back to the future and runs into...
Without a DeLorean.
Yes. You thought what I was thinking. Sadly, I don't have the 1.21 gigawatt clip anymore. I had to get rid of it because...
What the heck is a gigawatt?
I know. I don't have a clip that fits this, so we'll just move on. But anyways, Geordi wakes up the captain, and Picard asks if they've reached the neutral zone. And he explains that he was in the past, they have to go to the neutral zone because that's where the temporal anomaly was. And they know that they need to go into the Devron system, but there's a snag that the Klingon Empire conquered and took over the Romulans, and that relations between the Klingons and the Federation aren't good. So they can't just hop on any ship. So they decide to hop on specifically a Starfleet medical ship, since they're allowed to and from the neutral zone by the Klingons. So they get in contact with the USS Pasteur, and who should be in command of the USS Pasteur but Captain Beverly Picard. In this future, Beverly is the ex-wife of Jean-Luc Picard. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think they went with the route of making Bev the ex-wife?
Leslie didn't approve.
I mean, by this point, Wesley is God.
I was so glad he wasn't in this episode.
God, yes.
We'll chalk it up to Q manipulating this somehow. The fact that he says he's hands off on this universe, I call bupkis.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that freaks me out is if you watch Beverly, the actress playing this part, if you look at her makeup and how they made her age, and if you take a picture of her now, they were dead on how she aged. If you look at it now and compare it to what they did in this episode, they were perfect. They got her down pat.
And Patrick Stewart got his voice down pat.
Well, you did notice that in each time that he was in, his shininess was less shiny.
Well, only you would notice that, Phil.
Just shininess is important.
And I have to say, Phil, for constantly picking on Picard for his shiny bald head, you're a really evil person.
Well, you did notice that when he went to go see Data in Cambridge, what did the lady say she was serving him? Earl Grey. And when he took a drink, what did he notice? It wasn't Earl Grey.
It was Darjeeling.
Yeah.
Either way, no Frenchman is going to drink Earl Grey. I'll say that to the day I die. No.
But that's just part of Picard's character trait.
Not to mention, it's...
And no good Scotsman. Never mind.
Not to mention, it's pretty much a united Earth by that point, so any sort of regional tastes like that may have been dissolved.
Nah, not with the French and the English. No.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe in that time Italians might like pineapple on pizza, or be okay with people putting hamsters on their cheese for YouTube
okay,
videos.
Throw yourself out.
Throw
yourself out. That's blasphemy.
I could see where Paul's going, because you have to remember they didn't mention that it's already been World War III and the Star Trek future. So things have drastically changed, and we're going to find out some more information come first contact. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Besides, Phil, maybe by then Italians might be okay with people putting hamsters on a wheel of cheese for YouTube video.
And I will point out, what is Picard's father and brother known for doing? What was their job? What was their
winemaking?
Winemaking. So things haven't changed. It hadn't changed 1,000 years before. It ain't changed 1,000 years in the future. Some things never change.
The Oakland Athletics suck.
I hate you. I really, really hate you.
Even I was going to go there, Paul.
Hey.
Hey, you know how much you know how much he hates Wrigley Field and the Ivy and the Cubs.
Yeah. I wonder, it would be a shame if I was to change the background.
Beautiful.
People have gone missing trying to run up against the Ivy in Wrigley Field.
No, Paul.
People have gone missing. There's probably
in Phil's mind
stuck there.
In Phil's mind, that has happened. But see, Phil, he roots for a team like the Oakland A's that play in a dilapidated stadium.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 1060 West Addison on his driver's license.
Hey, they have traded players for cases of soda.
Hey, you guys got a new pitcher, so be happy.
Yep. But anyways, we're gonna change back to a picture of the bridge. Wait, this is the wrong bridge.
I like that bridge.
Yes, this is a great bridge, but this isn't where we started. I think we're flashing into the past. But anyways,
well, if we're in the past, I shouldn't even be on the panel.
Really, no one should be on this panel right now except me.
But you do know that I was always hoping that they were going that when Q put him on trial, it's because doing this whole entire time of 7 seasons, whatever years they spanned, Jean-Luc Picard was not able to grow a single hair in what is it, the 32nd, 34th century, and they still can't get
24th
that man a
century,
full head of
Will.
hair.
Let's get back on topic. So he so basically they go aboard the USS Pasteur, where Dr. Beverly Picard is in command. She says that she kept the last name, and they need to get clearance to get across the border, and they suggest contacting Worf. And so they do. But as they're waiting for him, Crusher says, go get some rest. And so he steps off the turbo lift and finds himself in the past again. They arrived at the coordinates that Picard set, and well, hold on, let's make this right. And again, Picard tries to provoke a response from Q, but nothing happens, and everyone in the bridge is confused at this. But suddenly time shifts again, and finally things make sense for Picard. He's back in that same mid-21st century courtroom, and he's surrounded by, funnily enough, all of the very same, I mean, yes, same actors and everything, all of the very same people that were jeering at him, Data, Tasha, and Troy originally. And in rides Q on his judge's chair, dressed in that same judge's outfit, and basically admits to him, you've still been on trial this whole time, ever since Farpoint Station. And so I found we never passed judgment because the trial never ended. But now we have passed judgment, and we have found you guilty. But Picard doesn't quite understand. He's like, but why have you found me guilty? Have I not done everything to prove that humanity is not a primitive, savage child race? And Q says, no, you haven't. You've not even begun to scratch the surface. All right, ActionCom, we're going to break the immersion a little bit. I'm going to bring you back on because it felt weird not having you in here. But anyways, he says, you didn't even begin to scratch the surface of how much you could expand your horizons like we were expecting you to. And basically all of humanity is now doomed. But he's willing to allow Picard to ask him a total of 10 yes or no questions about his situation. And so Picard, go ahead.
Before we get into those, he basically, the key is in the phrase, you are the same man that I met all those years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or words to that effect. That's the key. And it was something that was looked into in Tapestry about why you shouldn't get into such a rut.
Yeah.
We'll explore that later when it concludes.
And so, like I said, Picard goes about asking these questions, and he's not really able to get much out of Q. But the biggest thing that he did for sure get out of Q is that Q is directly responsible for Picard's shifting through time, and that the anomaly does have something to do with Q's claims that humanity is doomed. And so pretty much Picard just leaves Q just leaves Picard to say, you're doomed. What are you going to do about it? And so now the rest of the episode pretty much becomes Picard working through all 3 timelines to try and figure out how exactly he doomed all of humanity. And when we get to that part, the answer will really surprise you. Now, I want to hear from everyone else, because Crit and Mike and Cash, I know I've been talking a lot. I know you guys have been quiet. What are you guys thinking of the episode so far at this point when you watched it?
I really find it intriguing. I want to know the outcome.
Okay.
I was a little
Yes.
confused, but I was not turned off by it. I was, as always, I try to fit all the facts in my head when I watch these things, and I don't know. I wasn't getting there, but it was obvious that they were going to feed it to me slowly, and they are very good at doing that. They did it before; they're doing it now.
And for me, I was intrigued. I was on the edge of my seat when I was watching this originally. I mean, I had my Kool-Aid squeeze it. It was blueberry flavored. It was Romulan ale. And there were very few commercials when this particular episode aired. Excuse me. So I was like, all right, give me more. Give me more. I want more.
Yes. So, Cash, what about you?
I agree with what Crit said. I was intrigued. They, I can't. This is the first time I don't remember if I ever watched this episode before. I probably did, but I don't remember it. So,
You all right, Cash?
Yeah.
You
What's going on?
sound sleepy.
Do I?
A little bit.
Shouldn't be. I just ate food. I should be okay.
Okay.
He's emotional.
He's entering that food coma.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
All right.
No, but I was just I was just waiting to see where it would go. I just don't exactly Crit. Yeah, I was just waiting to see where it goes. I don't remember if I watched this originally before.
Crit, get that off the screen. But anyways, continuing on. Picard.
Unforgotten.
Oh, sorry, Phil. What about you? What do you think of the episode so far?
Keep going. It's okay.
Are you sure? Okay, very well. So Picard, as soon as his encounter with Q is done, he's flashed back to the present, and he calls the ship to red alert, and immediately brings all of the senior staff to a meeting. And no, Cash, your mic is not sounding weird. Mike, you don't sound weird, do you?
Data behind you. Behind you.
I could be considered weird at times, so you guys have seen it.
I had to, Cash. I'm sorry.
It's a bad joke.
But anyways, continuing on. Picard tells everyone the encounter that he just had with Q, and they wonder, do you think this is just one of his games? And Picard said, at first I thought so, but this time it felt different. Like there was a sincere earnestness about him. Basically that Q's not playing games anymore. And so he says that now we need to figure out, in what way do I doom humanity, and how do I stop myself from doing it? And of course, the natural second guessing comes into play, and Picard's like, no, we can't second guess ourselves. I have to be sure about what I'm doing.
And one thing I like during their conversation in the observation lounge is Data brings up the fact that Q is always looked at Picard as though it's a master and their beloved pet.
Yes.
And the look that Picard gives Data
It's like,
Uh,
what did you just say, son?
He's just well. If you guys were in that situation, man, freaking that Q guy would drive you insane. He's just so aggravating. You just want to choke him. You want to slap him upside the head.
Hey, learn
And
or
yet you
leave.
can't. That's right.
Yep.
Learn or leave.
So, anyways, another time shift happens. Picard goes back to the future, and again, they manage to get Governor Worf on the view screen, and Worf explains that he is no longer a member of the Klingon High Council, and for his own safety, he has to refuse them entry because it's not safe. And he also criticizes Admiral Riker for not letting them, for basically not helping them. And it's heavily hinted at that throughout this whole episode that Admiral Riker and Governor Worf have a problem with each other. But Picard manages to play to Worf's sense of duty and honor and manages to twist his arm in a sense to allow them passage to the Devron system. So he does this on one condition: I'm coming with you. And so they go and pick up Worf, and they go.
You know, the episode makes a little bit of a mistake here, in my opinion.
Oh?
They both, Worf and Riker both say that there's nothing going on in the Devon system. And they just saw reports to that effect.
Yes.
I think it would have been better if they had said, yes, there's an anomaly there, but it's going to disappear by the time you get there, so why bother? That would have probably been a better idea.
I could see that being a thing. So anyways, continuing on, they pick up Worf, and meanwhile, the Enterprise in the present makes it and finds the anomaly. Actually, hold on. I skipped ahead. So, Captain Beverly Picard is about to give the order to warp 13 to the Devron system, and she's about to say engage, but as a nice gesture, she lets Picard sit in the captain's chair and do his iconic engage. And right then he flashes back to the past. And again, O'Brien asks, engage to where? And Picard clarifies and says, warp 9 to the Devron system, despite the fact that that is in the Romulan neutral zone. Counselor Troy then pulls Picard aside and says, the crew is worried and concerned that you're giving all of these orders with no explanation. And Picard says, I know, but unfortunately it has to stay that way. I cannot tell anyone why we're doing this. And so he puts out a call to Farpoint Station to Commander Riker, who in this version, I'll remember in Encounter at Farpoint originally, he didn't have the beard yet. And I believe it was you, Mike, that mentioned that Jonathan Frakes didn't want to shave his beard, correct?
It wasn't so much that he wasn't going to shave his beard. They probably didn't want him to for just one little scene, just like with Denise Crosby, having the longer hair in this episode as compared to what she had in season 1 originally.
Right.
It wouldn't have, been worth it for just a one-off.
Yes. And so they get in touch with Riker and say, listen, we're going to be late picking you, Geordi, and Beverly and Wesley up. And Riker says, I understand. We'll hold down the fort here until you get here.
Yep, and that was a clip from the Arsenal of Freedom that they used.
And there's also a scene immediately after this when past Deanna tells Picard, I think it's necessary to inform you that that Riker and I had a romantic relationship in the past. And she says that don't worry, we are both well over it. It's not going to affect either of our jobs here. And Picard thanks her for that. And then Picard is again flashed to the present and finds himself talking to a terrible looking Commander Tomalak. Like, let me show you this picture here. Tomalak has seen better days, has he not?
It was rushed.
Yeah, and not to mention the scene that we flash to is literally him leaning over his console, looking unintentionally hilarious, saying, "How long are we going to stare at each other over the neutral zone, Picard?"
I can't
Like,
help but think that Q is just messing with them here.
He could be. That's a good point.
Like, he looks like someone's wearing a rubber mask of Tomalak. Like, let me see if I can find a better picture of him. That's how he looked when we first saw him.
That looks better.
And that's
Much
how
better
he looks
makeup.
Yeah.
It might have been.
First
It might
one.
have been a thing where they only had Andre Baramis for one day, so they had to do what they can for that one shot.
I guess, man. They just kind of took some
sci-fi
Play-Doh and threw it on his face or something, I guess.
It's not unheard of when sci-fi shows end when they're filming the last episodes. If it was the last filming, it could have been filmed earlier. But during the time, I can guarantee you, people were leaving, going off and doing things. So their makeup department might not have been up to par. Their stage
I
department
can believe that.
been up to par. So
Maybe
Or
whoever
somebody
did-
said, make him look like Nimoy.
did that. They were taking down stages while they're trying to finish up the season finale or the series finale.
maybe it's possible that whoever it was that did Tomalak's makeup earlier in the season was busy with Deep Space Nine working on Quark or Odo or Jadzia.
Could have been
Very true.
allocated that person could have been going to the film part of Generations.
Could have been.
Yeah, because another thing, some of the set pieces you see in this episode are actually used in Generations.
So continuing on, both the Romulans and the Enterprise agree that both sides want to investigate this anomaly. So what's going to happen is one ship from either side will be allowed to enter the neutral zone. If any other ship follows, then the other side will attack. And so the Enterprise, and I'm guessing Tomalak's ship, goes into the neutral zone to investigate this. And again, they find the anomaly. And again, Picard shifts again back to the past, and he sees the anomaly, but sees that the anomaly is much bigger. And again, he shifts into the future. Oh, look, we're back talking about the Orville again.
So I think the Orville is overrated, and I think it's a ripoff of TNG.
You will be
I just-
silent!
Oh. By the way, Roadhouse.
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 Yes. By the way, that was a very interesting game of Lotchgum that me, Mike, and ActionCom was playing, wasn't it?
I still got the bandage.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
I'm still suffering nerve damage from the
Did
last time
I-
we played.
The other day, me and Cash were in the VR chat, and we watched the movie Snake Eyes, and he loved it so
Other
much.
day, what are you talking about? Look, you got. Are you taking the wrong pills, like Phil McCracken? Is that what's going on here?
Oh,
What?
speaking
Don't
of
put me
Phil,
in your
Don't you know?
narrative
It's
of,
2021, Cash. It's
Yes.
disorderly conduct. I'm
is
not part of
not.
this.
speaking of Phil, I found out that he is such a big fan of Skyrim, and I think I'm going to do my first Skyrim stream on
You
the channel
ruined-
tomorrow.
Cash, you ruined it. You.
Oh well.
Welcome to Pacific War 4. I have no idea what I want to do, but hey, let's try this out.
Yeah. You know, Pacific, I think a good name for your show would be Pop Talk.
What kind of stupid name is that?
You know what name would be good for you, Master Paul? I think it would be Phantomology.
Okay. The joke ends there, but I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, dun dun dun.
Who are you guys? I don't know any of you guys. What am I doing here?
Yeah. And again, by this point, ActionCom is just in the chat. And Phil, I believe, is just in the chat at this point, too.
By this time, I've never heard what Phil sounds like, and I don't know if I ever want to hear it again.
Yeah.
Oh, hello there, guys. I'm just a special little hero.
And also, what's
Wow,
what's
I didn't
a
know
release
Pinocchio is in
McCracken?
here.
What's
I
a
want
release
to be a
McCracken?
real boy.
Just by the way,
I could say something, but I'm not going to.
Oh no, not my button.
Now he sounds like the gingerbread man from Shrek.
Yeah, he sounds like Gingy.
Mm-hmm.
by the way, just as a side note, ActionCom, have you heard that Phil has his own channel now?
I have not.
Yes, it's called Release McCracken.
I was going to say, play him in the intro.
Woo!
Yeah. Here, you want to see the intro to it?
Sure.
All right. I'm sorry for those watching for getting sidetracked. We'll get back on track in just a moment.
Cash money as a legend. I don't know why. No McCracken is something new. You're new and
I hate you all, you fools!
I heard some Amish kid talking during that. I don't know who it was. Yeah.
I heard a cameo from Harvey Cthulhu.
It's Skeletor, you fool!
But what'd you think, ActionCom?
Very nice. Who did better, Laurence Olivier or that Irishman?
I don't know.
Release the Kraken!
By the way, just so you know, that video was made by Coach.
Very nice. Very nice.
Oh, it was.
Yes,
Oh,
that
of
was a
course.
Coach
That's
creation.
Very cool. Very cool.
Anyways, though, getting back on track. So give me a second.
He's gone.
I know I'm blanking on this.
And you said I sounded tired.
Well, to be fair, I just took a melatonin gummy, and I'm trying. Anyway.
Sounds like an excuse.
We were making fun of Tom a lot. That
He's
was the
feeling
last.
good right now.
He's like, yeah.
So basically, in the future, they continue to scan, and they find no anomalies in the future. And Klingon ships are about to attack the Pasteur. And being that the Pasteur is a medical ship, they do not have the weapons and protection to ward off Klingon battleships. And so the Pasteur comes under attack. But who should show up to save the day but Admiral Riker and the Enterprise? And this is a very different looking Enterprise. Most notably, the fact that it has 3 warp nacelles, instead of the usual 2. The 2 on the side, and then 1 in the middle, kind of going up over the saucer section almost. And it also has a specific phaser cannon on the underside of the phaser instead of just coming out over the rim of the phaser.
Yeah, it's the phaser lance, so Admiral Riker can say, "Get off my lawn!"
Yep.
Warp
I
13.
gotta say it though. Old man Admiral Riker's makeup, it's not the worst we've seen in this show. But that does not look good.
It looks
Looks
all
like
right.
He looks like
Looks
a clown.
all right.
I think that
Could be
It
worse.
looks, it looks better than a certain episode.
You mean
Kindness.
That's right.
Yes.
and it looks better than what happened to Deanna Troi in Man of the People.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just because, Phil, there you go. That's what old man Picard looks like in this episode, but with a beard.
What's that crawling out of the crack of his head?
I know, right?
I don't know.
Some kind of alien thing.
But anyways, again in the present, Picard, both Picard in the present and in the past come up with the idea of sending a reverse tachyon beam into the anomaly. And this matches what Picard of the future did with the Pasteur of sending out a reverse tachyon beam to scan for the anomaly. And so all 3 reverse tachyon beams were hitting at the same time, causing a time anti-time reaction. And so what was being created here is a paradox where the anomaly they thought would appear in the past is actually appearing in the future, affecting the past.
No, Master Paul. No, it's not like that at all. It's like the chicken and the egg. The chicken and the egg. You didn't.
We think it started in the past, but it started here in the future.
Yes.
Great Scott! Marty!
Oh, by the way, Phil, I just do that to trigger Phil. And I gotta say real quick, Phil, and I'm sorry for getting off track a lot, but I gotta say, Phil, I hate the fact that you have made me so self-conscious about the way my pillows look.
Well, I'm just glad they're up to military standards.
No.
Here we go.
Well, how would you like a military standard pillow in your face?
Oh.
Night, everyone.
Yep, seriously.
Save that for when I'm 80 and drooling.
That's right.
I actually shifted my monitor doing that. But anyways, Q is then basically in the present. Picard is alone in the ready room wondering what to do, and Q shows up. Again, for the last time we see him wearing the classic TNG uniform, because by this point he's appeared on Deep Space Nine wearing what we now know as the Voyager uniform, and he will appear a couple more times on Voyager wearing that specific uniform. So this is the last time we see him wearing the TNG uniform. And Q takes Picard back to the very creation of life on Earth, at least from an evolutionary standpoint, where Earth is in a very volatile state of a whole bunch of basically oceans of magma that are on the surface. And they notice that the anomaly is huge, like so huge that it's covering a quarter of the entire galaxy, including where Earth is. And pretty much Q points out that this is the very moment that life would have begun on Earth, but it doesn't because of what happens because of Picard's actions.
They established that the time anti-time rift is detrimental to biological life. It breaks it down.
Yes,
It causes some things to happen, like Geordi actually gets his eyes.
he gets his
back.
eyes back, but also at the same time, Nurse Ogawa, who was expecting, loses her baby.
Foreshadowing.
And Dr. Crusher does bring up that, some of these things like scars, are healing. It's only
Mhm.
temporary.
Picard's growing hair.
Is he really?
No.
You had to say that to give Phil some hope.
All it takes is one time anti-time anomaly. We can do this.
Yes. I wish I no, I'm not going to do that. But anyways, continuing on. So eventually, and I am going to kind of speed through the rest of this so we can get to the countdowns because we're over an hour and a half into this now. But eventually, Picard in all three timelines realizes that indeed they started the anomaly in the future, and that the reverse tachyon beam is keeping the rift alive. And so first what they do is disconnect the tachyon beams from all three enterprises. But that keeps the rift, but the rift doesn't go away. And by the way, hello to Leia Rose. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
And so what Picard in all three timelines decides to do is fly all three enterprises into the very core of the rift, acting as a spatial barrier. And so all three crews, of course, are uneasy about this, especially the crew of the Enterprise of the past. But after Picard of the past gives his speech, they go along with it. All three fly into the center of the anomaly, and the stress is so great that the Enterprise of the past and the present get destroyed completely. And so does the Enterprise of the future, almost. But the anomaly collapses in on itself and vanishes, and suddenly Picard finds himself once again, present Picard specifically, finds himself once again in that mid-21st century courtroom where it all began. Q is once again in his judge's chair, in his judge's outfit, and Q congratulates Picard for once again saving humanity, and for a brief moment actually opening his mind as if Q wanted him to. And Picard makes a comment of saying, "I sincerely hope I never find myself here again." And Q says, basically to the effect of, "Don't you get it, Q? Don't you get it, Captain? The trial of humanity never ends. You will always be judged for your actions. And from here on out, you make of it what you do."
Yeah, and Q also says, it's not about charting stars or nebulas. It's about expanding your minds
Mm-hmm.
to think outside of the box, to think about possibilities you never would have thought of before.
Yes. And basically here is where he says his goodbye to Captain Picard, says, "Who knows? Maybe someday, maybe I might pop in and say hello every once in a while." And then Picard goes back to pretty much the beginning of the episode, where he first encountered Worf and Troy in the hallway, asking them what date it was. But this time he's doing it with a sense of relief. It kind of reminds me, and I'm sure Patrick Stewart drew on this too, it kind of reminds me of the end of the Christmas Carol, when Ebenezer Scrooge pops his head out the window and he says, "Good lad, what day is it?" My good sir, it's Christmas Day. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Did anyone else get that sense?
No. Not until this moment.
That's
Okay.
But I can. It's interesting you should do that because Patrick Stewart loves that story.
Yeah.
And
He played it in a movie, and I believe he put on a one-man production of it every year in Hollywood, didn't he? As like an actual play?
yes, which I would love to have seen because one man play. Whoa,
Yeah.
doing it all.
So anyways, at the end of the episode, we get the familiar sight of all of the main characters minus Picard sitting around the poker table playing poker as if it was just another day. But suddenly, in walks Captain Picard, and he asks to join. And they're, of course, all too willing for him to join. And he sort of quietly admits, I should have done this a long time ago. And Troy says, you were always welcome, which just hit me now, is yet another parallel to the ending of A Christmas Story, when Ebenezer Scrooge goes to his nephew Fred's house and he says, I'm sorry. And I'm sure it was, again, going through Patrick Stewart's mind, that parallel of Scrooge probably realizing I could have been here this whole time celebrating Christmas with my family. And Fred, looking at him like, you're always welcome. And so Picard takes the deck of cards and deals the game, saying, 5-card stud, nothing wild, quote, and the sky's the limit. And we zoom out of the room, out of the Enterprise, and it flies away. And that is the end of The Next Generation. So let's go ahead and do this.
The context was a little different. In this, when he joins that poker game, Q's lesson has taken hold. Picard's going to expand himself and not be the stick in the mud.
Yes.
Introvert.
So let's go ahead and do this before we do anything else. And let's go ahead and give a score. Since this is movie length, we'll go out of 10. And I'm going to go 9 point. I'm going to go the full 10 out of 10 on this one. This is perfection. Crit?
10.
Mike?
9.5 out of 10.
Action Com?
10. I can't think of one thing that was wasted.
Cash?
9.
And Phil?
6.5.
Out of 10?
Throw him out.
Get him out of here.
Why?
Get him out of here.
I said it before.
Toss him out of the airlock.
Good ending for a series for this one, but it's not the best ending of all time.
Well, I'm not
You're not even
I'm
saying
not
that.
talking about
Open your mouth when you speak when you're spoken to. Go back to the
We're speaking specifically for Star Trek: The Next
I'm not even
Generation.
going to play the clip this time.
You're out of there.
You think I'm going to bring
You're
him back?
gone.
I'm not. He is in timeout.
Wow, Phil. Way to go, man. Way to go.
I'm serious. He's in timeout. He is
And I
staying in
had
the
some
background.
shiny
Paul,
pennies for
you know what clip
too.
you need?
Nope.
You need the clip of the Clear High Council turning their backs.
Yes,
I
I
had
do.
some shiny pennies for you, and you get nothing, Phil. Nothing.
Yes. And by the way, with Phil in the background, we can say whatever we want about him, and
Yep.
he can't do
Phil-
anything.
Phil's probably laughing and saying, Cash is a CCP member.
Then
Guys, credits
saying-
for bread and stuff.
You want to know the best
You're
part?
saying, I hate you all.
I hate
And
you
you wanna-
all. That
and you wanna know
Ivy,
the
I
best part,
hate it.
Phil?
Yeah.
He can't even do anything to us on his own channel, because guess who has 2 thumbs and controls that StreamYard? This guy. I'm kidding, Phil.
It's okay.
Wait, don't kid.
It's okay. But like I said, it ain't going to change anything. It's still, to me, a 6.5. Good ending, but not the best ending in the world. I see.
All
That's
right.
not the point.
But
That is the point.
We're
That is
talking
the
about Star Trek. We're not
And
talking about
we're not-
MASH.
we're talking about in the
Just did
context of Star
episodes
Trek.
Before this, contradict
Phil.
everything they said in this. Where do
Oh,
you have
gosh.
Riker
Phil,
being
Phil,
told
Phil,
he could not have?
Phil.
Wait a minute. Let me
Phil,
finish.
Phil,
Let me finish.
Phil, you're missing the
Let
whole
me
point
finish.
of the story of this episode.
Great.
They were futures created by Q.
And that's
So
fine.
guess
But
what? That future
wait,
doesn't matter with
wait.
the Enterprise having a cloaking device.
Look,
The events of the
Resistance is
past
futile, Phil.
were in effect.
the whole
The events of the
season
present
7
weren't
has
affected.
been up and down.
Good
The whole
God,
season 7.
Phil.
Why you have an episode, episodes
Kick him out
back
again.
going
Resistance is
to-
futile.
You can't have a
You will be assimilated.
Phil, do
Yeah.
you realize how crazy you're making Crit right now? He just put up a
Good.
very
Crit
toxic
is
person.
always crazy. It's just that it comes out more when he comes around me. It just happens.
All in favor of kicking out Phil? Aye.
I
Yeah,
Nay.
does
Nay.
not change anything. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man,
And for you guys, it could be the greatest ending of a series.
make.
it's not.
May I
No one's
please- may I
saying
please
that.
say something?
No one
though?
is
Who's
saying
saying
that,
that?
Phil.
Hey,
You're
guys,
the one that's
guys,
saying that,
guys.
Phil.
No,
You're the one
I
that's
mean-
saying that.
First of all,
May I please
let
talk?
me finish. It'd
May
be
I
nice
please
if
talk?
I could finish to make my point.
Okay, go ahead, Perot.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I liked it, but like I said, it was not the greatest ending of all endings for me. It was top 10, but not top 5. I liked it, but it wasn't even the greatest TNG episode that I've seen at all 7 seasons.
On that, we can agree.
Okay. For me, this season was hard. I really don't think they should have even had a season 7 minus this ending episode for the series. And that's it. I'm sorry. The whole season kind of ruined it for me.
All
I
right.
felt that way in 1994, and I feel that way in 2023. It hasn't changed.
All
To
right.
be honest, a lot of people that were watching it, like me back in the day, were already on board with Deep Space Nine. You know,
All right. Fair enough.
Uh-huh.
And on a serious note, Phil, I'm sorry if we took that a bit too far.
no, I just like the chance to finish. I mean, I listen to you guys.
All right.
You know, that's all.
Well, anyways,
I hate you all.
We know that, Phil.
We
We know
know.
that.
Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into sort of a wrap up of the show as a whole. Now, I want to specifically theme this around comparing the original series versus this show. Yes, there's going to be comparisons made between Deep Space Nine, this show, and there's comparisons that can be made about all the other shows, but I want to focus it specifically on Next Generation versus the original series, because those are the two shows that we have completed completely from start to finish. And the question I have for everyone, Crit, I already know your answer. You already said it, but feel free to engage further. Mike, you can go first. TOS versus TNG. Which one do you think? Like, okay, forget which one's objectively better. Which do you prefer and why?
Well, oh,
Go ahead, Mike.
did you?
Even though we got 7 seasons of Next Generation, the 3 seasons of the original series are what makes it special to me. Because
Okay.
you have that limited window of opportunity with the 3 seasons. That limited window of storytelling. It didn't get all
Yes!
You made it.
I actually made it. Yes.
It didn't get all the fanfare that Next Generation got during its, I wouldn't say entire run, but at least the majority of its run. But what it gained in syndication, even before Next Generation, is greater than what Next Generation had, because it is what gave the rebirth to Star Trek once it got into syndication.
Mm-hmm.
Without the original series, there would be no Next Generation, because there would be no original series to put into syndication. for fans to go back and watch the episodes again and again and again. So we owe a lot to the original series. And that's why I say between the two, I'm choosing the original series.
Okay, fair enough. Action Com, what about you?
For me, that's somewhat of an impossible question. To favor one or the other is, I just don't find it possible. There are shows
Okay.
in both that I keep going back to. I mean, for what they did in the 60s, it was excellent. For what they did in the 80s and 90s was excellent. I mean, and as my predecessor said, there's a certain yin and yang, they rhyme, where
Yes.
you can't have one without the other. One needs the other. TOS laid the groundwork. TNG ran with it. I mean, and it was definitely an evolution. The first two seasons were definitely different than the later seasons. And Deep Space Nine showed that there were other perspectives that we could take. I mean, but the question is, did they ever stumble so bad that we got into Kurtzman levels of inanity?
Which we'll
I
get
would
into
say
that
no.
in a moment.
I would say no.
Fair enough. By the way, funny story, while you were talking, my grandmother heard the noise of the water bottle clanging in the trash can and came up here to check on me. And it reminded me that unfortunately Liza Marie passed away. But we've already talked about that, so no need to revisit it. But those were very good thoughts, Action Com. Cash, what about you? TOS versus TNG. Which one overall do you prefer?
I mean, I don't mind TOS because without the original series, just like anything, if there's not a foundation, we don't get TNG. And considering TNG was not going to happen before, that was a big deal for a lot of fans when that finally happened. So for me, it's always going to be I like TNG over TOS. But I don't hate TOS, but I will always pick TNG.
All right, fair enough. Phil, what about you?
I will always lean more to TOS.
Okay.
I mean, it's that classic Captain Kirk, Captain Picard. Though I do like TNG. At that time when it was on TV, it was the only sci-fi we really had. I mean, there were other things, but it was really, when it comes to like space and everything, that was all we had. So it kicked off a lot of things that we later get on, which is a good thing. But to me, it always will be TOS, even
Okay.
movie wise. I mean, can anybody say you can compete with Star Trek 2 against anything TNG did? Movies or TV?
That is a good point.
Yeah, I mean, again, they did assemble a good cast for TNG. I like all the selections, even though some of the characters end up falling out. But overall, they managed to keep a core. It kept us entertained. And where I will always fault TNG, right after this came to an end, and I'm glad that Worf does end up on Deep Space Nine. Worf should have got a Klingon show. Period. End of story. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity in hindsight. All right, but those were good points. And Crit, I saved you for last because, like I said, you already said what your answer was.
Okay.
TNG versus TOS. But
Pause.
feel free to go further.
Brief pause of this subject. Back to WWE news briefly. Tony Khan says he's open to merging AEW back to WWE if they buy WWE. This comes from NBC. or if they acquire WWE. All right, back to TNG.
Okay.
I've made my I'm more of a TNG fan when it comes when it comes to shows. When it comes to movies, I think the TOS cast is much better for because but you know I'm just the guy that never got into TOS. So
Okay.
I have obviously mine is a biased view. I do know that season 3 of TOS is weak to some regard, and
Yeah.
there are weak seasons of TNG, but most of the chunk TNG is stellar content. With that, I'd say I'm more of a TNG fan than
Okay.
TOS.
Fair enough. Now, question kind of wrapping that whole subject up. Can we all agree that TNG was a worthy successor to TOS? I say yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it took the ideas from the previous show and ran with them.
Okay. Now, another question.
Just real quick. There was originally, before TNG officially came out as TNG, that a lot of people from the original TOS cast thought they were getting a
Oh,
new series.
Phase 2.
Yep. And I would have been in favor of a phase 2, not too long, maybe 2 seasons and all, and then a passing of the torch to TNG. That would
Yeah.
have been my ideal of handing off. We never really get a handing off.
The
So
closest
that was a great, how can I put it nicely, failure of Star Trek.
I can see that.
Well, we kind of did, but that's for later.
Yeah. All right. Now, here's where we get into a bit of an unfortunate topic. And this is one that I really cannot comment on because this is the limit of what I've seen from Star Trek. But those that are on the panel that have seen Star Trek Picard, does Star Trek Picard ultimately kill TNG for you? And be as
Yes.
bluntly honest as you can.
Yes, it does.
Not
Define kill.
define kill.
To where, okay, so without bringing up names, but you've seen certain people on Twitter saying that they can't even go back and comfortably watch TNG knowing what happens in Picard.
Well, I say this: the best way, if you feel that way, don't watch it. Read the books. You'll find comfort. For me, the pocket universe, like the expanded universe, is probably your best solution. And the pocket universe does sadly have all thing like this season finale. All good things have an end. For me, this Kirksman, I'm in the realm where I just believe this Kirksman stuff is a different realm. There's some people that just can't let go, and they watch it, or it's unfortunate. But I also think it's kind of petty. It's kind of petty that people have said the same thing about the Star Wars sequels. I feel like though the Star Trek stuff has done more damage to Star Trek than Star Wars ever did to Star Wars. But I just think if you hear people saying that and you're afraid, I think people should just not mind those shows and read the books and just not give it any heed. Stay with this right now. This is the Adventures of Picard. There's the films as well. Everything after that is speculation or the books if you want really more.
Right. Pacific, you were about to say something before. I'm sorry, Phil. But Pacific, you were about to say something when Crit started.
Yes, it does kill TNG for me a little bit after watching the first 10 episodes of Picard and what they do to certain characters in Picard. You know, some characters are the Voyager, and I didn't like how they handled that aspect. I didn't like, how they made Picard someone who wasn't even the Picard that you could recognize.
Hmm.
It just left a sour taste in my mouth, and I was going to go back and review all 10 episodes, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit through those 10 episodes again for a second time.
I see. Phil, you were about to say?
I would say I did watch Picard, went through it the first season, and I will tell you this: as I'm not the greatest fan of TNG, though I liked it,
Mm-hmm.
it ruined TNG for me, and even ruined whatever I had any feelings for Picard. I'm grateful that some of the characters so far haven't showed up on Picard. I wouldn't want to see Worf on that show at all. Please, dear God, no. And the things that happened at the end of that first season, I would say that last episode in that first season really is what spun things down. You know, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Yeah, if you want to watch it, watch it. But if you've seen that last episode, I think it will put you down the drain too.
I see.
So if you really love what you got now out of TNG, I would advise you not to watch it.
Okay. All right, fair enough. ActionCom, anything further to add?
Did it kill it for me? No. I can watch it. I can still enjoy a Picard speech. I can still look on in horror as Picard is assimilated and becomes Locutus.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I can appreciate the character moments like Picard giving Wesley a choice of either tell the truth or be prepared to face down in an inquiry. That they're still, I go back to over and over again, still fresh, still means something to me. What Star Trek Picard did was it probably killed the legacy and future fans or future fandom, because you're giving them garbage for their generation.
Hmm.
And while I could show them what my generation saw, I don't know. I'm going to have to rely on their goodwill, and after future generations, I don't think that goodwill is going to last.
I understand that. And of course, we are the Star Wars guys here. We're talking about Trek tonight, but we are the Star Wars guys, and my thoughts on Disney Star Wars are certainly well documented, and a lot of what you said I can certainly sympathize with as far as Star Wars goes. And that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not prepared to get into tonight. And like I said, I haven't seen Picard, and I'm halfway tempted not to. And I'm also halfway tempted to, from the standpoint of just how bad can it be?
Well, I've
And
only
we saw
watched
and we saw what happened with that. Yes, this is me again being funny to break the tension, but we already saw what happened with that in this clip, because I am angry. And I'm angry with this gentleman right here because he tricked me into watching a terrible movie.
I
you
tried
still
to warn
watched
you.
it.
I tried to
We
help
told
you.
you. We told you.
Right.
We
Satan.
did tell you. I mean,
Yes, we
seriously.
did.
Yep.
We told
Yep.
you not to sign that contract,
Ca-
but you did
again,
anyways, didn't you, Paul? You know?
I did.
I'll bring it up. We tried to throw you a lifeline onto the Cobra Kai stream that I was doing.
You're like,
But
I'm going to
no.
watch it. Okay. Have fun.
But you know
Oh,
what?
well.
Since I put Phil on blast, I'm gonna put this man on blast
Was
for
I
skipping
muted?
ahead on the movie.
Was I muted?
If you were, I didn't do it.
Oh,
I didn't do it.
But this man
well-
skipped ahead on that movie.
because it was horrible. But you wanted to enjoy torturing yourself, so
He went back to
yeah.
go over the parts he that were skipped.
Yes.
Maybe
All
I
right.
should have not skipped it and just walked away to another room.
Oh, man.
All right, but anyways, getting back on topic though, we've talked enough about New Trek. Let's get back to the Next Generation proper. And now it's time
All
to. We haven't done this in a while. We're going to go through a couple top fives. Now, during the course of this action com, did you manage to get your top fives ready?
I slapped something together.
Okay, that's fine. And if this is like a top five for now, that's completely acceptable. So we have two top fives. We're gonna do. Each of us made our own. Our top five favorite and least favorite. Now, quick reminder for those that aren't familiar, we ain't done this in a while. The way I tend to structure these is we do the honorable mentions first, and you have to have at least one honorable mention, no more than three. And then we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 being the best or worst, depending. So let's flip a coin. Heads, we do favorite first. Tails, we do least favorite first. Phil, call it in the air.
Heads. Heads.
It is heads. So we're doing the favorites first. And you know what, Phil? Since you called it in the air, you can go first. Do you have any honorable mentions?
No.
Okay.
But my top five, and first one, I keep forgetting.
Hold on. There's another thing I forgot to mention too.
Okay, go ahead.
One person does their honorable mention, another person does theirs, and then so on and so forth. So we
one
stay
at
on the
a
same
time.
level together.
So one at a time. Okay.
Yes. So
My
Cash.
favorite Next Generation number one is the one where
Well,
they
hold
go
on. It's Cash's turn to do his honorable mention.
I go with Data Lore from
Okay.
season 1. Yeah.
All right. Any particular reason why?
Well, because we learn more about Data, and Data is always an interesting character to me. So
Okay.
I think that would probably be the main reason.
All right. Fair enough. Action Com.
It would be Brothers. It would be my honorable mention
Okay.
as one of the best.
All right. Mike.
Well, I'm gonna go with The Offspring.
Okay. All data-centric episodes so far. Wow.
So did I give you all my honorable mentions or just one?
If you go ahead and give all, and please
Okay.
at least give like a sentence as to why.
So before my best of five, here are my honorable mentions of the best of TNG. The Kalar duology reunion and emissary are
Okay.
my honor. Darmok and All Good Things are my honorable mentions.
Okay. Fair enough. My 3 honorable mentions, and just for the record, I'm counting two-parters as one episode, as always. My honorable mentions are Best of Both Worlds, because part 1, the way it ends, is the most iconic ending to a two-parter, I would say, ever, of any show, right? What would beat Mr. Worf fire the end for several months?
Mm-hmm.
And then Chain of Command, because part 2 was amazing, and the whole "there are 4 lights" speech was amazing. And then Relics, because of Scotty and the fact that he, out of all of the TOS crew that appeared on TNG, got the best treatment. So that is all the honorable mentions out of the way. Now we're going to move on to each of our number 5s. So Phil, what is your number 5? Phil?
I forget the name of the episode, but it's the one where Riker and Data and I think Worf go to the planet, and it's a planet that some alien race set up.
Oh, that one.
And they're constantly going out the door, and they're still,
Let me look it up.
Still there. I can't think of the name, but
Is that the one with the
Royale.
casino?
The Royale.
Yeah.
That's the
That is
Royale.
number 5.
Yep, the Royale.
Interesting.
Or as I call it, the Hotel California episode. Okay, fair enough. Cash, what about you? Number 5.
Wow, number 5, probably Elementary, Dear Data,
Oh, we just lost Phil.
and we lost Phil. Doot 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 doot.
Okay. And why Elementary Dear Data?
I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan, so that's, I love a good mystery, and nobody can go wrong with Moriarty as a villain. So
Okay, fair enough.
yeah.
Action Com, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Clues.
Okay.
I like my mysteries too.
And that's the one where everyone wakes up from being unconscious and Data's hiding something.
Maybe hiding something.
Yes. Okay, that's a good pick. Mike, what about you?
My number 5 is The Inner Light.
The
Why?
Inner Light.
Yes.
Wow.
Why? Because Picard experiences what it's like to live in a civilization that's been long since dead.
Okay, fair enough.
He experiences a lifetime. He, gets there. He is basically an outsider as far as he's concerned because he's not realizing he's reliving someone else's memories. But then you see him start a family, and you see what efforts he helped put forth to at least have something of the civilization survive by sending out the probe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the flute and the Inner Light theme. How could you not like that theme?
The Last Temptation of Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Crit, what about you?
So, are we doing this one by one, or?
Yes, so you're number 5. Just number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is let me think here. It would be Sins of the Father.
Okay, fair enough. And welcome back, Phil.
Sorry.
Sorry. So why Sins of the Father?
Because it's about Worf, and it's a major point in his life where he kind of leaves his Klingon past behind for the benefit. He becomes a scapegoat in the conspiracy, and
Right.
it hurts him deeply, even though he's a proud warrior, and it kind of just introduces Klingons more and more than it did before, and
Mm-hmm.
Klingon, we get like a real look at Klingon culture. It's just an interesting, just a really intriguing episode of TNG.
Okay, fair enough. My number 5 is going to be Yesterday's Enterprise. Yesterday's Enterprise is one of the best single episodes in this whole show. It's a great look at what if the Federation not quite was the mirror universe, but was definitely a more militaristic environment than being more scientific in exploration. And it shows what if peace wasn't existing between the Federation and the Klingons, and they were engaged in a bloody war. And we see also, of course, Tasha Yar come back through the alternate universe, and Denise Crosby actually gets to say a legitimate goodbye to her character instead of dying needlessly. So now we get to move on to number 4. So let me restore the order that we had. Phil, what is your number 4?
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Okay, cool.
I like that. It was kind of different because you've seen the Star Trek, like you said, the Enterprise was more militaristic. So yeah, I like that episode a lot. But
All right,
number 4.
fair enough. Cash, what about you? What is your number 4?
Ooh, I think it'd probably be, man, that was tough. I had to start Relics. Scotty. Uh, that Scotty doesn't feel that he's useful anymore because of his age, and then I think it was, if I remember, Picard pushed him to say let's make him feel useful again and feel like he's part of this, and there was a time warp in that, if I remember. That's why Scotty came on the ship, right? Something like that. Oh, he was
Not
frozen,
quite.
right? He was frozen. Yeah.
Yeah, he was frozen in the
Right.
transporter.
That's right. Yeah, I thought that was a really good episode.
All right. Action Com?
For me, number 4 was Tapestry. That was
Okay.
that was an excellent journey to go on with Picard.
I definitely can agree with that.
To see what life would have been like if he had been a layabout.
Okay. Mike, what about you?
I am Pacific of Borg. Resistance is futile. You will lower your shields and surrender your channel. You will be assimilated. Any
Okay.
questions?
So you choose Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
Okay, fair enough.
It was the first cliffhanger that made you go, what's going to happen in part 2? Like
yes,
you mentioned,
absolutely.
at the end, Mr. Worf, fire. But even before that, finding out that the Borg have indeed arrived to the Alpha Quadrant, and they're on the Federation's doorstep, and the Federation is ill prepared.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of the episode. Then I, like the fact that Picard got assimilated. But I still stand by what I said when we talked about this episode, that Picard should have died.
Yes. And I overall tend to agree with that, but my counter argument will always be that we would have also missed out on some great Picard-centric episodes that happened after this.
Yes.
For example, Tapestry and The Inner Light. Maybe they could have pulled those episodes off with Riker as the lead, but I don't think it would have hit the same.
No.
Okay, fair enough. Crit, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is the Drumhead. Excellent court drama and very good acting by Gene Simmons, probably the best. And a look at
hold on, Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons, not Gene Simmons. It's
Jean.
Yes.
Okay.
How
fair
dare
enough.
you?
How dare you?
You shame her name when you speak it. I have brought down better than you, Admiral Crit.
Gene Simmons.
Oh, by the way, on a somewhat related note, Phil, tell me how much you like Tommy Thayer.
Really?
Oh boy! All right,
Really?
But it reminds me a lot of McCarthyism and the dangers of witch hunting. Ironically, this actually reminds me of a certain expired committee that finished their business not too long ago. But moving on, that's my number 4. So, ding.
All right, fair enough. My number 4 is Q Who. Q Who is a very important episode to the entirety of Star Trek going forward, because this is the episode that introduces us to the Borg, and I think we can all agree, at least within the confines of the Next Generation show, this is the Borg at their scariest. Can we all agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Because we didn't know anything about them at this point.
Exactly. And Q basically provokes the Borg into pursuing the Enterprise and ultimately showing up on the doorstep of the Federation. So if you really boil it down, the Battle of Wolf 359 was Q's fault. Would you say that's logical?
No.
Yeah.
I give Q. Q was warning that these guys are out here. Watch out, they're dangerous. And Picard was telling him, "Hey, we could handle this." And he's like, "Are you sure?"
Mm-hmm.
I give Q credit for at least giving the Federation some warning of what they were dealing with, so they didn't go in totally blind.
Okay, fair enough. But still,
It
great.
is, but you are correct. This is a episode that people who are not familiar with TNG have to see if they want to watch the movies. And
Yes.
I've seen a lot of people on their first reaction channels watch this to prepare themselves for the movies.
Mm-hmm. And again, great performance by John Delancey, and just overall a great portrayal of the Borg. So with that, Phil, we're on to number 3. What's your number 3?
My number 3, and again, sorry if I forget the name of the episode, was the episode where everybody on the Enterprise caught some disease that made them horny little 15-year-olds, and Data gets sexually abused.
The Naked Now.
The
There
Naked
you go.
Now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I can.
And it should be out there that, yes, Data was abused.
Why? They had to prove that he was fully functional in every way.
She practically attacked that man.
Yeah.
And he loved
Well,
everyone.
Data went along willingly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see what
It
Data
was
was wearing?
consensual.
Did I see what Data was? He was wearing his original version of the TNG uniform.
Well, there you go.
All right. Cash, what is your number 3?
The Measure of a Man. I love a really good
Great choice.
courtroom drama. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Data learning that, Data does not want to basically be examined, and he resigns his commission, and everything that goes along with that he's not human, so it doesn't matter. It was really, really interesting drama.
All right. Fair enough. Action Com, what is your number 3? Action.
Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2.
Okay.
Master Paul, I wish you could have been there. The enthusiasm from one show to the next. You knew that the show had basically arrived. I mean, people were talking about it in school. People were talking about it at the karate studio. So
yeah, I wish I was watching in that time too. And Mike, were you about to say something?
No.
Oh, well then it's your turn. Go ahead.
All right. So my number 3 is Chain of Command.
Okay.
Why Chain of Command? Because it puts Picard, Crusher, and Worf in a situation that they may not come back from, but we also meet a new character, Edward Jellicoe, and he takes command of the Enterprise. And he runs a very tight ship, and it's drastically different from Captain Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in hindsight, yeah, I didn't like the character when I first saw the episode, but I like that he added a little bit more structure to the Enterprise. It was too loosey-goosey, especially with the Cardassians, saying, "Oh, well, we're not doing anything wrong." Oh, not at all. And then of course, Picard being held captive, and the great performance by David Warner on Next Generation, and how he and Patrick Stewart really worked well together in their scenes.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was going to happen to Picard. Picard could have died there.
Yeah, he very well could have.
And then it would have been Captain Jellicoe.
Which I think would have pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it would have, but Ronnie Cox gave a good performance.
Mm-hmm.
But you know why he got rid of Dick Jones?
Why?
I got rid of Dick Jones because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
It's Cohagen.
Dick, I'm very disappointed in you.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
It is Cohagen.
You haven't seen RoboCop?
Got to
Oh.
activate
Oh, never mind. Yes, I have.
Master Paul. It is Cohagen. We have to activate the reactor in the volcano.
So,
Master Paul, if you really want to get the Jellicoe experience, you need to watch Cop Rock.
okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's a television show, only available on YouTube in bootleg form.
All right, fair enough. So, Crit, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is The Offspring. Loving probably my favorite Data episode besides the Drumhead or Measure of a Man. His relationship with his daughter and the way she acts, and it's just so charming and delightful, and it's kind of sad the way it does, but it's life, and it's my choices for TNG are more character driven, more just charm. For me, this is a very good TNG episode. Top 5, top 3.
Absolutely. And it's also worth mentioning that Offspring is a great follow-up to Measure of a Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my number 3, and Cash has already touched on it. My number 3 is Drumhead, because everything that Cash said is correct. It is a great courtroom drama. And Crit's right. It's a great look into the inner workings of McCarthyism, and because of all of that, it is such a timely episode in that the message, I would say, applies more now today, given the current sociopolitical climate and social media, than it did back then. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Hold on, Paul. My third one was The Measure of a Man. You said Drumhead, so I picked
Right,
the Measure of a Man.
Oh, never mind. Crit was the one that mentioned Drumhead. Sorry, I got mixed up.
Good.
But yeah, the message of Drumhead, don't you guys agree that it's especially prevalent today?
It's relevant to everything that's going on today.
It's relevant.
Oh my, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
All right. So now we're up to number 2. Phil, your turn.
This is number 2, right?
Number 2, yes.
Number 2 is the second episode that had Ferengis on it. After that hard one with Riker that looked like there were some type of little creatures. Yeah. The one where they deal with Deanna Troy and her mom, and you find some stuff out about Ferengis, like they don't let their women wear clothes.
That is Menage a Troy.
Thank you. Yes, that's my second favorite episode. Because women should not wear clothes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
I think your channel's canceled, Paul.
I reject all of you.
I didn't say anything derogatory. I just said what they say.
I reject all of you.
I won't be surprised when I see a tweet tomorrow saying cancel the Star Wars guys.
All right. So anyways, Cash, what about you?
The Inner Light.
Okay.
The Inner Light was really good about basically Picard in this other world, in this village, and there's a lot of emotion, and even Crit got emotional because we watched that episode together, and I'm sure he's seen it many more times than I have, but it was very, very interesting seeing Picard have a family and knowing that he's trying to do what's right in that time period, but he knows he's also not supposed to be there. And going through the emotions of people dying and getting older and It's very, very interesting.
Okay. Action Com, what about you?
What number are we on?
2.
2. This is going to be a strange one. It's not that I like it. In fact, I have many problems with this episode, but they're mostly on a philosophical level, which is why it's so interesting, and I keep coming back to it.
Okay.
And the episode is the Pegasus.
Oh, a season 7 pick. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that it's very much like Clues in that you know that there's something that Riker's not telling,
Mm-hmm.
and the Admiral's not telling, and we slowly get there. And Picard goes a little above and beyond to find out what the problem is. Like he says, he pulled in a lot of favors to get a look at a report that he really shouldn't be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Where I have a major problem is the ending, where he decloaks the ship right in front of the Romulans. I have a problem with that because it basically takes an internal problem and makes it international. It's like bringing the Russians in on a problem that could best be handled right here in the States. I mean, I don't think that was the best way to end that.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. And you weren't here when we covered that episode. I have my own problem with it too, but it's not so much a problem with the episode itself. It's just the single episodic nature of TNG, the fact that Riker's pretty much just pardoned for this and is allowed to resume his post with no problems.
Yeah. Reset.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the part, these are the parts that I find it fascinating because I keep watching it, and to see them sneak around, and then to see it all come to a head, and to see what decisions were made, fascinating to me. I don't get it.
All right. Pacific, what is your second favorite episode?
Second favorite episode? It's the episode that made me go, TNG's going somewhere. It's Yesterday's Enterprise.
Okay.
Why? Because it gives us an alternate timeline. It introduces us to the Enterprise C and her crew. We finally get to see it in motion. We see the return of Tasha Yar. We see Guinan. We see reaction, and interaction between Tasha and Guinan. Two characters that I don't think any of us on the panel, if we were watching it back then, would have ever met, because Tasha died in Skin of Evil. So this is a very good episode, and what happens at the end is very good. Picard, being the last member of the bridge crew, still trying to give the Enterprise C enough time to go back into the past to right the timeline.
Yeah.
That's great. It also gives us a picture into a dark alternate future.
Yes.
This is Jellicoe Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crit, what is your second favorite?
My second favorite is family. The relationship of Picard and his brother. And the dreams that his, not to mention the subplots with Weasley and Worf and his parents. It's a very heartwarming episode, I would say. And I hear this is an episode that Gene Roddenberry was against, and for me, this makes the show because it dives more into the characters, and we see the lives, and it's more explorative, exploring your inner humanity than it's as much as exploring the stars. So yeah, that's my second.
I can see that. Okay, my second favorites. Okay, so real quick, I wanna say something that my list initially did not include this episode, which should spoil what it is. But I want to real quick read you the earlier version of what my number one of what my list would have been. My list for favorite would have been number 5, Encounter at Farpoint, number 4, Yesterday's Enterprise, number 3, Q Who, number 2, Drumhead, and then we'll get to number 1 when we get there. But after seeing it, I had to throw it up there. Number 2 is All Good Things because I said it already. This is the best way to end this season. And this was nothing. I think it was you, ActionCom, that said it, that nothing was wasted in this episode. Everything ultimately, every detail ultimately was important to solving the crisis. And the fact that Q, basically breaks it down for Picard. Listen, the trial that I first put you on at Farpoint Station, all of humanity is always on that trial, and it never ends. What you do with that is up to you. That's just a perfect way to end the Next Generation. So with that, we are now up to each of our number 1 favorites. So Phil, number 1, what is your favorite?
My favorite Star Trek Next Generation is the one where Jean-Luc Picard goes to the planet and he actually lives a whole life.
The Inner Light.
The whole planet was, the people all died out, but
Mhm.
somehow he was able to live a whole life while he was there. And he got to witness have a family, have life outside what was out in space, and then witness it coming to an end. And yeah, that was my favorite Jean-Luc Picard episode.
Okay. Yep, that was The Inner Light.
Yep.
Cash, what about you?
Best of both worlds. That's one of the episodes that actually got me really hooked on TNG. Finding out about the Borg and how when Picard and how creepy it was to watch him being assimilated. It was really great. Well, I guess both episode 1 and 2, part 1 and 2, since that counts, I guess, for my number 1. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Mhm.
ActionCom, what is your favorite TNG episode?
All right. The envelope, please. My number 1 favorite is the Drumhead.
Okay.
I'm with a lot of people here that it's a very interesting legal thriller. What put it over the top was the interesting twist that the reason why people's suspicions were triggered was because of an accident in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said that line, just because there was no sabotage doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. That pretty much sums up the whole episode. And to see how that plays out was very interesting.
Yes.
But it is interesting to see. I kind of wonder what Spock would have thought of all this, because it's like logic run amok.
That is true.
So many facets, so many good ideas, so much of it explored, and it has a very satisfying conclusion. Number 1 for me.
All right, fair enough. Mike, what is yours?
My number 1, I'm going to start it off by quoting a line from the episode. I am Worf, son of Moog, and I am here to challenge the lies that have been spoken of my father. Sins of the father.
Okay.
Worf goes back to the Klingon Empire to clear his family name. He learns that the Klingon High Council is doing some shady crap. They're covering for the Duras, even though they know that Duras is the one that committed the acts at Kinnemer and not Moog. But it's a very good episode, and it, introduces us to Kern, Worf's brother. So, you know, I like learning more about Klingon culture. As you guys know, I like the Klingons.
Yes.
Out of all alien races in Star Trek, I like the Klingons. So I like finding out about their culture and that even in Klingon society, they're willing to cover things up.
Yeah.
The movies and the television show really rehabilitated the Klingons
Yes.
from their TOS origins.
Mm-hmm. Crit, what is your favorite?
You probably guessed it. It is The Inner Light.
And I'm going to go ahead and throw up my banner because it's mine too.
This is one of the things I think Q, when he was at the end of All Good Things, this is what he broaden your horizons.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of the series, Picard has shown a disdain for, well, while we see it with family, he has in his heart, he does enjoy, having a family, but in truth, he didn't like kids, even though he would open up to Wesley and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the village, this probe, gave him a chance to experience what he's always been missing in his life. And the fact, to me, this is one of the best sci-fi episodes ever made. The simple premise of a man living another man's life and getting to experience the joys of life, having a family, having grandchildren, and it affected Picard as it affected us, and you see that through the rest of the series. And I think, again, this is what I think Q was referring to: Picard embodying his humanity and going beyond their limits. So,
Yes.
This is the greatest episode of The Next Generation.
So, I already said it. My favorite is also The Inner Light. And I'm just going to play this in the background while I say why. Let me get it in.
I can't hear you, Paul.
Hmm?
Oh, were you saying something?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, it wasn't picking it up.
Okay.
Now
Well,
it's
anyways,
picking it up.
For me, everything that Crit said is true. This episode is about Picard coming across the remains of an ancient civilization and being given the chance to witness this civilization through the eyes of one of its citizens, and given the chance to take part in something that he's never had in his life, the chance to have his own family. Go back to Encounter at Farpoint when he says, "I'm not a family man, Riker. I have no kids, and I'm gonna need your help to show a more genteel side of myself if Starfleet expects me to command a ship that has families on it." Fast forward to the end of season 5, and he has the chance to have a family of his own, and he realizes what he had been missing. And I'm sure even after this, he would often sit there and play his Resican flute and probably wonder, what if I had never joined Starfleet? Or better yet, what if I settled down, had a wife, had children, and just enjoyed a peaceful life as a family man? And in my opinion, the best part of this whole episode is his relationship with that Resican flute. Something that initially he learned how to play, which you hear in the background right now, but something that he learned how to play when he was in the middle of that life, only to wake up thinking it was all a dream. But then a box is retrieved from the probe, and you find out that that civilization really did exist. That man, Dathan, really did exist. And Picard has the proof in the form of that Resican flute. And so, with that, I'm going to cut the music off. And that is my favorite episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It is literally perfect.
And may I add something to that, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
I think in the episode Disaster, when Captain Picard is trapped in the turbo lift with the 3 kids that he was giving a tour to,
Yes,
I think that helped too.
I
Because
definitely.
he had to basically, come to terms that, the children look up to him.
Yeah. And let's face it, had neither of those things happened, there'd be no such thing as a Captain Picard Day.
Exactly. I'm
Another
a role
Pegasus
model.
creation.
Yep. All right, now to go to the other end of the scale. Since Phil started and I ended this time, we're going to go in the reverse order. I'm going to go first. Actually, no. We'll keep the same order. So, Phil, now we're going to the opposite end of the scale. What are your dishonorable mentions?
Everything season 7 minus the 2-part ending.
Okay, that's a
big.
that's a bit too broad. Can you narrow it down to specifically 3 for the dishonorable mentions?
The first 3 episodes of season 7. I'm sorry to remember their names, but season 7 for me.
That would be. Are you counting Descent as part of this?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be Descent, Liaisons, and Interface.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to be so down on 7, but besides the ending on season finale 2-parter, yeah, they could. Yeah.
Fair enough. Cash, what are your dishonorable mentions?
Ugh. Dishonorable mentions. Ugh. Oh man. This is a tough one. um hmm. Let me see.
Just pick one you didn't like.
Trying to think whatever. Unnatural selection. Is it the doctor yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Action Com, what about you?
In terms of honorable mentions, I don't really have any, mainly because they're not bad ones are not really that honorable, but I would have to say, looking over this list here, I'm not a particular fan of Remember Me. The one where
the everyone slowly starts disappearing.
Mm-hmm. I felt that the thing cheated a little. It didn't give us the information we needed.
Yeah, but at least it spawned a great skit out of us. Okay, Mike, what are your dishonorable mentions?
Well, my 3 dishonorable mentions are The Child, Too Short a Season, and Sub Rosa.
I mean, what's not to like?
That episode is horrible.
Goddess.
And then, of course, all it takes is an energy beam to get Counselor Troy pregnant in The Child and Sub Rosa.
Yes.
Who's Dr. Crusher going to date? A ghost.
That is true. By the way, number 1, Crit, I just got what you sent me. And number 2, can we now all agree that the Carnus meme is now dead?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's find new
Oh.
memes now. I'm striking that
So-
picture from the library.
Okay, so should I give my dishonorable mentions?
Yes.
Okay, so I am not counting Shades of Grey in my worst list because that's too obvious of an answer. That's automatically a bad episode. We can all agree. So I
Yeah.
don't count that as a real episode of TNG. Now, my dishonorable mentions is most of season 1 and 7,
Mm-hmm.
Sub Rosa, Genesis, and The Cost of Living.
Okay. Fair enough. My dishonorable mentions is Code of Honor, and the reason that one's not part of the actual 5, and I've said this before, and I stand by it. Yes, it is a terrible episode with a extremely terrible subcontext to it. But the way that it's pulled off honestly makes it a so bad it's good kind of way. I enjoy it for the simple fact of laughing at how bad it is. Shades of Grey, it's a clip show.
But what
Man
about
of the People,
Shakespeare?
good God, don't put Deanna Troy in that old makeup ever again. So, Phil is currently AFK, so we're going to skip him. We'll come back to him when he's back. Cash, what is number 5 for in your opinion the worst episodes?
Code of Honor. Code of Honor is pretty awful.
Okay. Action Com, what about you?
That honor goes to Masks.
You should have been here last week when Pacific was channeling his inner Brent Spiner.
Asaka is waking. Asaka is waiting. I'll tell you to Asaka out of here. The moon's coming. You
Okay,
see, the moon's coming. You gotta leave.
Where's the cyanide?
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. What's worse? Action Com. Masaka is waiting or Alamarine count to 4?
Alamarine, count to 1. Alamarine, count to 4. Alamarine,
Alamarine, then 3 more. Alamarine, if you can see Alamarine, then come with me. Yeah,
All
you
right.
can't help it. You can't help it.
No, you can't. But okay, fair enough. Mike, actually no, Phil came back, so we'll go back to Phil. What is number 5 for you, for your worst?
My worst is the one, and again, forgive me for not remembering the name. Is the one where Tasha Yar's daughter was trying to smuggle aid during the Klingon Civil War, and they had all the crew, officer crew of the Enterprise, being put on other Federation ships to be part of the fleet. Particularly the one where Data was the captain and that guy kind of didn't approve of
So
him.
Redemption Part 2?
Yes. Reason being, if just in my mind, for me, that never would have happened. You might have had Riker be in command or temporary command of a ship, but they wouldn't pick all the commanding officers from the flagship, so to speak. Them other ships would have done have either captains or their number ones in charge. So.
Well, real quick before we move on, Phil, let me ask you a question. Since that is a part 2, if you lump part 1 with it and make it one big episode, does that change anything for you?
Slightly, but it still will be on my list of non-favorite TNG episodes.
All right, fair enough.
I'm sorry, that something like that to me, and I understand because you're not going to want to see characters of captains you don't have no idea, so they did it that way to put Data and all that. But realistically, that wouldn't have happened, and I always had a problem with that. Like I said, I could see Riker, but after that, I wouldn't see anybody from the Enterprise being in command of a ship. Not second, third, fourth, or fifth officer. No.
All right, fair enough then. I believe so. Mike, what about you?
What about Action Com?
Oh, sorry, Action Com. You're number 5.
Mine was, I already told you it was masks.
Okay, fair enough then. Mike, your turn.
All right. I know this is a favorite of yours, but it's not a favorite of mine. Number 5. Can anybody hear me?
Oh,
The
that one.
Loss.
Yep. It's not. Oh, come on! I knew it was gonna happen. Anytime he's like, "I have the power," so if
Sorry,
anyone brings up the
sorry,
law,
Pacific. I had
that's it.
to.
That's it,
I
man.
knew
He's got the
it
power
was
of
coming. I
baseball.
didn't care. I did not care.
Yep, exactly.
All right, let me address this before you continue on. I like the loss, but in hindsight, yes, Deanna Troy comes off as excessively whiny, which back then I justified as her actually being interesting. But now, in hindsight, and maybe I need to rewatch it and with what you guys say about it in mind. In hindsight, perhaps I did treat that episode a bit too nicely. So, with that being said, continue, Mike.
I mean, well, that's the whole thing. Troy is whiny in this episode. Okay, I understand she lost her empathic abilities. But just the way she goes about it, being whiny and being a complete itch at times. It's like,
I see what you did there.
yeah.
Okay.
I just don't like the episode. There's a lot of Troy episodes I just don't care for.
Fair enough.
It's not because of Marina Sirtis, it's because they're not very strong episodes.
All right. Crit, what is your number 5 for your worst?
All right. Imaginary friend Isabella. Imaginary friend. Oh boy. TNG loves to get annoying kid actors, and this is a horrible story. And then she's like, I don't want to play with you no more and stuff. It's just you can laugh at it. I don't even laugh at I don't laugh at it as entertainment. I just laugh at it as like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
But
I'm going to withhold comments for now. But I can definitely see why you placed that one there. My number 5 for the worst is a season 1 pick, Angel 1. And this is the one, for those that didn't remember, is the one where they have to work with this one planet where women are the dominant species, and Riker is sort of taken as the slave of one of them, something like that. It's just not a very good or memorable episode. So, Phil, number 4.
And he went to sleep, I guess.
Bill.
I'm here.
Oh, maybe not.
And my next dishonorable mention is The Lost.
You asked for it.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I can't hear you or see you. Yeah, whatever. Diana Troy flying through whatever her name is, flying up in the nightmare clouds.
Oh, that's a different episode.
Well, that's the next one. That's my next one.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Cash.
He fell asleep.
Oh, it's imaginary
payback.
friend. I'm hearing.
Payback.
Okay.
I know, right? Imaginary friend. Where am I? Don't you want to be my friend? I'll do whatever you want if we're friends. Yeah, that episode was annoying. I watched
All
that
right.
with Crit. We were like, oh, that's great. Where's some vodka? Because maybe it'll help liking this episode. I don't know.
All right, fair enough. Action Com, what is your number 4 for your worst.
Liaisons. Love me.
Mm-hmm.
The one where Picard just crashed on a planet.
Yep.
And
Well,
it ends with him okay with all this when he finds out he's being duped.
you might as well continue with it because that's my number 4.
Fair enough.
Oh gosh, why won't you love me?
Mhm.
Why won't this episode end?
Or would you like some chocolate?
Would you
Yeah,
like to go on
Don't
Twitter?
anyone ever clip that.
got it. Clip it. You hear it, guys? Clip it.
Okay,
Oh, brother.
but still though, Mike.
It's liaisons. It's bad.
Fair enough. Crit.
Which one is this?
Number
This is-
4.
Number 4. All right, this is the Dolphin. The romance life of Wesley Crusher and a queen thing alien. I don't know. And Wesley Crusher, we can all agree, is the most annoying part of TNG and probably the worst written character in the show.
Can I play the clip just one more time?
Yeah.
All right. I think after I play this, we're gonna go ahead and retire. Do I still have it?
I thought you took it off.
Oh yeah, I did. Never mind. I got rid of it when we talked about Journey's End, which just wait till we get to that one.
Oh yeah.
But anyways,
But this is I don't care for his love life, and this was just a weak season, bad season 2 episode. So
fair enough. All right, my number 4 is Unnatural Selection because this is probably the only episode of season 2 that I can think of that's specifically focused on Dr. Pulaski, which Dr. Pulaski, real quick, remind me, Action Cobb, what the actress's name was.
Oh,
I can tell you it.
Which is
Diana Mulder.
Diana Mulder. Yes, she tried with it. I'll give her credit that she tried to make it work, but from what I heard, she didn't get along well with the original TNG cast, and her portrayal of Dr. Pulaski was literally just a dollar store version of Dr. McCoy when we've already had Dr. McCoy. It was DeForest Kelly. And then you add on to it what's pretty much a rehash of the Deadly Years from TOS and some very bad de-aging makeup, though not as bad as what was used in Too Short a Season. And it just does not make for a good episode. So with that, Phil, you already said what your number 3 is. It's Night Terrors, correct?
Yes. That's
Okay.
hard. Not the worst thing imaginable, but it's up there for me. So, yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Cash, what is your number 3?
The Lost.
3 for 3, folks.
It has to be. Where anybody? Where are we at? That episode literally gives people a headache. I like to call it the human headache. That's what I like to call it. It's not because you like it, Paul. I just don't like that episode.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
I know. But all I have to say is say the loss one more time, mother father.
Lost.
You know, people
The
are going to
Lost.
say it.
There,
the
I
Lost.
said it.
Yeah. LOSS. Yes.
the luck.
All right, fine.
Lucky. The leader.
Anyways, back on topic. So is that all that you had to say, Cash?
Yes.
Okay.
Allahu Zahar.
Action call. What about you?
My number 3 is the Outrageous Okana.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
comedy, bad comedy, is a recipe for any top worst list.
Mm-hmm.
They never could get Robin Williams, which is a shame. They definitely wanted him, but the best they could do is Piscopo. You see, people are even snoring as I mention it.
What?
True.
What?
And
It's also worth mentioning that the actor that played Okona was in the running to play Riker.
he reminds me of that actor from Robin Hood Men in Tights. What was his name?
No clue.
Carrie Ells?
Anyway, the bad comedy and a pirate actor don't mix.
Yeah. Mike.
All right. So number 3. This panel is waking. This panel is seeing various objects change to another form. This panel is being bored out of their minds because Data is acting like he's possessed after the Enterprise is scanning this comet and everything starts changing. And yeah, yay, the sun and the moon and the stars above. I
Yep.
hate this episode.
All right. Fair enough. For those that don't know, we're talking again about masks.
Yeah.
And we lost Crit. Well,
Again.
let me message him real quick, see what happened. And we'll come back to him, but I'll go ahead and do my number. Oh, there he is, actually. What's up, Crit? Everything good?
I accidentally pressed X leave.
I gotcha.
I've done that.
All right, so Crit, what is your number 3?
Oh boy. I can't sense anyone anymore.
you
did that just to mess with me.
You had to know that was coming, Paul.
Yeah, the loss. Yeah. Do you have a crush on whiny? I don't know. How can you defend that episode? I can't sense anything anymore. I better leave.
At least compared to the monotone that Marina Sirtis was using for most of her lines as Deanna Troi, at least that was a change of pace.
Oh, so you rather she whine than say her lines without anything?
And at least some form of emotion.
I can't do it.
All right. All right, now that we got those jokes out of the way, my number 3 is Genesis. Now,
Genesis! Oh, wait, wrong Genesis.
Yes. So,
with ears that big, how could you not hear?
Spider Barkley. Need I say more? Prehistoric Worf, Frog Deanna Troi, Ape Nurse Ogawa, Caveman Riker.
Me, Commander Riker, Ooga Booga, fishing tank.
Just this was just a plain stupid idea. And again, go back to the stream that we did last Thursday where we talked about all of season 7 without All Good Things. The common thing that we all agreed on was the episodes that were redeemable would have been much better if they had been done earlier in the season, but there was a select few, and this was one of them that just frankly should not have been made at all. So with that being said, Phil, we're on to number 2. So what is your second least favorite?
Genesis.
Okay.
Genesis!
does what Nintendo don't.
You know, Genesis is foreshadowing to the worst Voyager episode.
The one where they become salamanders.
Yep.
It seems like you don't really want to mess with genetics on that show.
I believe it. So, Phil, anything that I didn't mention as to why you didn't like Genesis?
I think it's just there's no way others to spin it. I mean, and it was let's see everything devolve. Yeah, wasn't good.
All
Just
right.
wasn't good. I just What was the most fascinating thing about it? Worf in his degenerate form bites Deanna Troy in her, what was she, a dolphin or some type of fish?
Some form of frog.
Yeah, he takes a bite out of her. Why? I don't know. Maybe it tastes like chicken. I don't know. But it was hard. No, that episode should not have even got past the writing stage. No.
Agreed.
No.
And remind me real quick, who was the writer on that episode? Because he was the one that really wrote those weird ones, didn't he?
I think Barron said it was it Frank's
Brandon
was
Braga?
the one who produced it, but I forgot who he said wrote it.
Brandon Braga.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Real quick, didn't that name also come up with the weird spooky episodes from TOS like And the Children Shall Lead?
No. Brandon Braga wouldn't have been old enough.
No.
Okay.
I know he did that infamous Voyager one. Yeah. And I'm going along similar lines, which I hate. One of the few Voyager ones I hate.
Fair enough. Cash, number 2.
Whatever Canis is. I can't remember.
Too short a season.
Too short a season, yeah. Bad makeup and just, I don't know, the episode was boring.
All right. Action Com.
Number 2?
Mm-hmm.
For me, number 2 is Justice.
Which one is that again?
The one where Wesley and the company beam down to those people in white loincloths, and they're half naked running around playing.
Oh,
and Wesley
that one
bumps into some roses and they're going to kill him.
Right.
I mean, 1, it was ridiculous. 2, they had a plot concerning a omnipotent being that never want to go anywhere, and 3, they let Wesley live. So number 2 for me.
Okay. Mike, what is your second least favorite?
Imaginary Friend.
Okay.
Clara and her imaginary friend Isabella go gallivanting around the ship. They get into trouble. And that episode, ugh.
All right. Crit.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Do I have energy? Oh man, these episodes are so lame. Well, if I had to, oh boy, I'm trying to bring up an image here.
Is it an image we should be worried about?
No. But I'll just say, all right, here we go. My second worst favorite, not favorite. The worst second episode of TNG that was the worst is a recent one. And it's Dances with Wolves, the Trek version. It is Journey's End. And
oh gosh,
it is such a horrible ending. After all the the first duty, there was they're actually doing interesting stuff with Wesley. They come back and kind of ruin it and say, you know what, let's make him a god and have him get advice from stereotypical Indians in space. And it was like, well, for one, why would the Native Americans leave Earth? I'm sure no one would push him out. Why would they need to find another colony? And second, why is it's so tropish? Why does Wesley need to become a god? And then why is he acting this way? He's like, I lost everything because I act this way. It is such a dumb, horrible. It's just the way they write him out of the show. They knew it was it was ending, but it's lame. Wesley's lame. It's lame and it's racist. And
so the TOS actor couldn't save it, huh?
Wait, there was a TOS actor?
There was a TOS actor.
Yeah, the head of the Indian Council, who himself was a real Native American, he played the Klingon commander in Private Little War, where he was introducing guns to that primitive society.
I didn't know that.
I don't know.
Same actor.
That doesn't change anything.
Kind of interesting.
All right.
But
Again, I withhold comment. My second worst Star Trek episode, the Next Generation episode for me, you guys have already talked about it. I'm bringing it up again. Imaginary Friend. For the simple fact that this is probably the single most boring and dull episode out of the whole bunch. And there's an interesting debate here because my number one episode, I'm not going to say what it is yet, but while my number two episode was boring and dull, the number one episode outright pissed me off. And there's an interesting debate as to which one's worse. But for the sake of this list, Imaginary Friend. Because here's the thing. What was the name of the girl that was the imaginary friend again?
Isabella.
Isabella. Again, I want to be generous because this is a child we're talking about. But good God, she could not have been more monotone. Like it was making me just I felt myself actively losing brain cells listening to her say things like, "But I thought you were my friend. Let's go play around the ship. If you can't be my friend, I'm going to destroy this ship," or whatever it was that she said. Terrible. So with that, we are now at the absolute worst of the worst. Phil, what is your least favorite episode?
I'm sorry, but I have two. And it's very hard because even as we're speaking, I'm still debating on which is the worst. I'm going to have to go with both. The one is the one where they're the drunk Irish people in space. That was the most racist.
Long ladder.
It is. And the other one is when Beverly gets caught in a bubble and Wesley and Traveler have to
Remember
try to
Me.
get her out
Remember
of there.
Me.
Yeah. Them two are probably it's hard to say which one's worse, but they're the two worst ones for me.
I'll allow you a tie this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You're
All
such
right.
a nice guy.
Fair enough. I hate you all.
I hate you all.
Cash, what's your least favorite?
The Child. Another
Okay.
Deanna Troy episode. Here's the clicker. I wouldn't blame you if no. But
I actually wasn't a big fan of that one either, but it's not on my list.
the Child, I had to think of the episode. She's pregnant. We're introduced to the new doctor. It's very exciting, and she's Deanna Troy's being her annoying self. It's like, can you be less annoying? In a certain other episode that starts with, all right, I'm going to stop. But yeah, continuing on, that episode was just boring and annoying.
All right. Action Com, what is, in your opinion, the worst TNG episode? Are you serious? Just say it.
I had something in my throat. The worst episode is Sub Rosa.
Okay.
I have never been able to get through that episode. I get bored. I can't even figure out what the heck's going on. What's the heck with this lamp? I mean, we start with a funeral and some hunky-looking guy in the crowd, and the women are all gawking at him. I mean, what is this? Days of Our Lives? I mean, no, absolutely not. Bury
Okay.
that episode
Fair enough.
with the body. Yeah.
Mike?
My number one worst episode of Next Generation is Code of Honor.
Okay.
Talk about a bad script, bad acting on all parties' parts,
Mm-hmm.
and a bad story.
Yes, agreed. Crit?
All right. All right. Let's get our you play the music. Here we go.
Okay, let me play the
I'm
music.
going to describe you
I
the
don't
worst.
know what this music is, by the way.
It's
so
non-copyright, I'll just say. But it's time to tell you the worst episode of TNG. And that is the most racist,
I'm not playing that music.
blind,
No.
mm,
I'm sorry. I can't do it.
horrible. And that is Code of Honor. Whoever thought of having... So the whole point of Trek is for them to explore new worlds. Now, we can understand the Indians because they were the colony and they left Earth. But whoever came up with the idea that just a regular Africans in space should be... It is racist.
It's insensitive.
It is irredeemable. And I don't even care if people like it, can laugh at it. Laughing at it is just giving it credit. And the fact that I'm not sure, and this wasn't Roddenberry's fault. He wanted lizard people. But no, it's like someone said, hey, let's get some African actors to play these aliens. And let's not give them any... I don't even think they had makeup to show that they were aliens. It is low tier sci-fi. It is low tier Trek, and that episode makes B movies look like masterpieces. So it is Code of Honor. It is the worst episode of TNG. It is one of the worst Star Trek episodes ever made. And I hate it. Mike hates it. The actors hate it. The writers hate it. It is pure hatred.
All right. Now, before I say my number one, let me explain why I stopped the music short, Crits. Because the music pretty much gave it away to me, and someone could watch this back and hear that we're playing an African song over a poor portrayal of African culture and take it the wrong way. So nothing against you, Crit. I'm just looking out for the channel, okay? So that all being said, my least favorite episode, and we talked about this last week, is Journey's End. Like I said, Imaginary Friend may be overall the blandest and most boring episode of the show. But Journey's End, especially the ending, really made me mad. Yes, everything leading up to the ending, as far as, what's going on with the Native Americans, is the most cliched thing out there. The government's having to sit there and kick the natives off their land, and the natives are going to fight back, and there's going to be some people sympathetic to the natives. We've seen this before. But what really made me mad was the fact that they decided to make Wesley basically a god, just out of nowhere. Because the whole episode, he is suffering, as he knew he was going to. He's not enjoying his time at Starfleet anymore. He's feeling the pressure of everyone's expectations. And what does he get for all of that? He becomes another traveler. And that really made me mad. As someone that loves a good redemption story, I would have rather seen him stay in Starfleet Academy, suffer consequences for disrupting the colony for sure, but ultimately redeem himself and go on to have a good career in Starfleet, emulating the man that he looked up to for inspiration, Captain Picard, instead of him really not learning anything except, I got to do what's right for me and not what everyone else expects of me, and going on to basically become God. That really upset me when I saw that. So, yeah, I think we have officially said everything that we can say about the Next Generation. So, this was a very long journey, almost 4 times as long as it took us to go through the original series. So, we're going to get back on track this coming Tuesday. We'll be back with Deep Space Nine. And I want to ask you guys, before we move on, we have of season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes left. So what do you guys say we just take those 7 episodes and do one slightly longer episode of Tuesday Night Trek next week, be done with season 1, and then we can jump into season 2 when you guys say it gets good?
I'd say let's do it, because season
Yes.
2, in my opinion, is where DS9 starts to find its footing.
I would say the ending of DS9 season 1 is actually the last 2 episodes kind of feel like season 2 episodes, but
All right.
I would I'm up for it.
All right. Action Con, any thoughts?
It's your channel.
All right. Cash, can you watch 7 episodes by next Tuesday?
Well, I'm actually going to go see the Avatar 2, The Way of Dances with Wolves meets Whales. So,
Here, I'm gonna spoil the heck out of that movie for you. Brilliant visuals, shallow story.
Yeah, that's what I'm
seen
thinking.
it?
But I'm going to see it.
Scotty going,
My brother and I are going to
Admiral,
see it.
there be whales here.
There be whales here. That's
Whale
right.
Wars.
I'll be seeing it in 3D next week with my brother, so I won't be here. So.
May I recommend
Alright, understandable.
4DX?
What is it now?
4DX.
Yeah, they should have some 40X screens in LA,
Oh.
right, Cash? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure if they're around here or not.
Do IMAX. Try to find an IMAX screen. So I see.
So anyways, that is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to finish up DS9 Season 1 on Tuesday, and then the week after that, get right into Deep Space Nine Season 2, and get back on track and actually slow things down for a little bit. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe.
Hold on, Paul. Hold on,
What is
Paul.
it?
I got one last thing to say as you end the stream.
Okay.
5-card stud, nothing wild, and
the sky's the limit. So, and actually, I am going to bring up one more thing before we go to this coming Sunday. I know we didn't do it last Sunday because I was sick. This coming Sunday, we are going to be taking another look, and I think I'm going to try and make this a yearly tradition around this time of the year. We're going to take another look at the 6 Star Wars movies, starting, of course, with this coming Sunday, A New Hope. And the goal of doing this is to try and pick something out of that movie that we've never noticed before. Because especially the original trilogy, pretty much everyone here on this panel pretty much knows those movies front to back. But I want to challenge you guys to try and come back with something from that movie that you never noticed before. Can you guys do that?
Well, I just want to let you know, Sunday I've already got something planned. I was going to watch The Last of Us TV series premiere.
Okay.
Me too.
All right, fair enough. All right, so anyways, that's the plan. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, everyone, the Force is family. See you guys later.
I hate you all.
And the sky's the limit.
The
Since
sky is
Yes.
the limit. See